Alright, so the story starts with this guy named Kael Verdant, and he's basically the biggest joke in the entire Astral Knight Academy, which is this super prestigious institution where nobles and rich families send their kids to become powerful warriors and mages. Kael is the third son of the Verdant family, which sounds impressive, but actually his family is barely hanging on to their noble status. His two older brothers are both incredible fighters who've made names for themselves in the kingdom's military, but Kael? This guy couldn't even manifest his aura properly until he was 16, which in this world is basically like being unable to walk until you're a teenager. Everyone else in the academy awakened their power at like 12 or 13, so by the time Kael finally got his aura, he was already 4 years behind and labeled as defective goods. The academy operates on this ranking system where students are divided into colored tiers. There's the Crimson class, which is for the absolute elites, the future commanders and heroes. Then there's the Gold class for talented students with bright futures. Silver class is for average but competent fighters. Bronze class is where you go if you're struggling but still have potential. And then there's the Iron class, which is basically the trash heap where they dump everyone who's barely worth teaching. Guess where Kael is? Yeah, Iron class, and not just that, he's literally ranked last in Iron class, meaning he's the worst student in the entire academy of over 3,000 students. So the story really kicks off on a regular training day where Kael is getting absolutely demolished in a practice match. His opponent is this guy named Terrence, who's also in Iron class, but at least he's mid-rank, so he's got some basic skills. The instructor for their class is this bitter old knight named Instructor Vold, who clearly hates his job because he got stuck teaching the rejects. During the match, Terrence is just toying with Kael, landing hits that aren't even meant to hurt, just meant to humiliate. Kael tries to fight back, but his aura is so weak that when he swings his training sword, the aura coating barely produces a flicker of blue light, while everyone else's aura should be shining bright enough to illuminate the training ground. After getting knocked down for the 5th time, Kael stays on the ground and the other students start laughing. Someone yells out that even a child could fight better, and another student suggests maybe Kael should just drop out and save everyone the embarrassment of watching him fail. Instructor Vold doesn't even defend Kael, he just sighs and tells him to get up and stop wasting everyone's time. Kael forces himself to stand even though his legs are shaking and his pride is completely shattered. He raises his sword one more time and tries to channel his aura, but it flickers and dies out completely. Terrence doesn't even bother finishing the match properly. He just slaps Kael's sword aside with his hand, not even using his weapon, and Kael falls backward onto his ass. Class ends and Kael drags himself to his dorm, which is in the oldest building on campus where they house the Iron class students. The building is falling apart with leaking roofs and broken windows, while the Crimson and Gold class students get to live in basically mansions on the other side of campus. Kael's roommate isn't there, which is good because the guy constantly mocks him too. He sits on his bed, which is just a thin mattress on a wooden frame, and stares at his hands, wondering what the hell is wrong with him. His family wasn't rich enough to send him to aura awakening specialists or buy him expensive training manuals, so he had to develop everything on his own, and clearly that didn't work out. Then something weird happens. Kael feels this sharp pain in his chest, like someone's driving a hot knife between his ribs. He gasps and falls off the bed, clutching his chest, and the pain intensifies until he literally can't breathe. His vision goes dark, and he's convinced he's dying. Maybe his weak body is just giving out from the stress and humiliation. But then, instead of dying, he sees something. It's like a memory, but it's not his memory. He sees himself but older, maybe in his 30s, wearing armor he's never seen before, standing on a battlefield surrounded by corpses. The older version of himself is crying and screaming at the sky about how he wasted his life, how he never became strong enough, how everyone he loved died because he was weak. The vision ends and Kael gasps back to consciousness on the floor of his dorm room. He's covered in sweat and his heart is racing, but the pain in his chest is gone. What he doesn't realize yet is that something fundamental just changed. See, in this world, there are extremely rare cases of people experiencing what's called a regression event, where someone's future self sends their memories and consciousness back in time to their younger body to get a second chance at life. It's so rare that most people think it's just a myth, but that's exactly what happened to Kael. The vision he saw wasn't just a vision, it was the memories of his future self, who lived a pathetic life and died with nothing but regrets. Kael sits up and suddenly he knows things he shouldn't know. He remembers training techniques that haven't been taught to him yet. He remembers the weaknesses of opponents he hasn't faced. He remembers that in his previous timeline he eventually dropped out of the academy at age 19 after being humiliated one too many times, and spent the rest of his life as a gate guard in a small village, never amounting to anything, while his brothers became war heroes and his family name eventually died out with him. But most importantly, he remembers one crucial detail that changes everything. In his future memories, he eventually discovered that the reason his aura was so weak wasn't because he lacked talent, it was because his mana circuits were formed in an unusual pattern that required a completely different training method than what the academy teaches. The standard aura training method taught at the academy involves channeling energy from your core outward through your body in a smooth, continuous flow. But Kael's circuits are naturally fragmented, meaning his energy doesn't flow smoothly, it pools in certain areas and gets blocked in others. The academy instructors saw this as a defect, but in his future memories Kael eventually learned from an old hermit that fragmented circuits aren't a weakness, they're actually incredibly rare and can be trained to create explosive bursts of power instead of steady streams. The hermit taught him a technique called the shattered star method, which involves deliberately fragmenting your aura even further and then releasing it all at once in devastating attacks. The problem was that in his original timeline Kael only learned this technique when he was in his 30s, and by then his body was too old and damaged from years of improper training to ever reach its true potential. But now Kael is 18 again, back at the academy with all his future knowledge and a body that's still young enough to be trained properly. He immediately gets to work. That same night, while his roommate is out drinking with friends, Kael sits in meditation and starts practicing the shattered star method. The technique is brutal because you're essentially breaking your own mana circuits on purpose and letting them reform stronger. The first night Kael tries it, he feels like his entire body is being ripped apart from the inside. He bites down on a cloth to keep from screaming because he doesn't want to wake the neighbors. Blood seeps from his nose and ears as his circuits literally fracture and rebuild themselves. Most people would quit after the first attempt because the pain is unbearable, but Kael has the memories of a man who wasted his entire life being weak, so he pushes through. After 3 hours of this torture, he finally stops and collapses on his bed, gasping for air. His body feels like it's been through a war, but when he checks his aura level, he notices something amazing. His aura, which was barely at the first circle, weak, barely enough to light a candle, has jumped to the peak of first circle, almost at the threshold of second circle. In one night of training, he made progress that should have taken weeks using normal methods. The next morning, Kael wakes up sore as hell but determined. He goes to class and Instructor Vold is running the same boring drills as always, making the Iron class students practice basic sword swings for hours. Kael participates, but he's also analyzing everything now. He notices that Instructor Vold's teaching method is completely generic, one-size-fits-all garbage that doesn't account for individual differences. He notices that the other students in Iron class are all weak for different reasons. Some have poor fundamentals, some have bad habits, some are just lazy and coasting by on their family names. And then there's Kael, who's weak because he's been training with a method that's fundamentally incompatible with his body. After class ends, Terrence, the guy who beat Kael yesterday, walks up with his friends looking to cause more trouble. Terrence is one of those guys who's only in Iron class because he's an idiot who doesn't study theory and fails all the written exams, but his combat ability is actually decent. He's got spiky red hair and this arrogant smirk that makes you want to punch him. Terrence gets in Kael's face and says something like, "Hey Verdant, I heard you were crying in your room last night. Did the bedbugs scare you?" His friends laugh and Kael just stares at him with this blank expression. Old Kael would have looked down and taken the insult, maybe mumbled an excuse and walked away. But this Kael has the memories of a grown man who's already lived through years of humiliation and regret. So instead of backing down, Kael looks Terrence dead in the eye and says, "1 week from now, I'll challenge you to an official duel and I'll beat you in front of everyone." The entire hallway goes silent because nobody expected Kael to talk back, especially not to issue a formal challenge. In the academy, official duels are serious business. They get recorded in your student file and can affect your class ranking. Terrence's face goes red and he's clearly pissed that the academy punching bag just grew a spine. Terrence accepts immediately because there's no way he's backing down from a challenge issued by the weakest student in school. They set the date for exactly 1 week from today and agree to hold the duel in the main training arena where everyone can watch. Word spreads through the academy like wildfire. By dinner time, literally everyone knows that Kael Verdant, the Iron class dead last, has challenged Terrence to a duel. The reactions are pretty much what you'd expect. The Crimson and Gold class students don't even care, they're too busy with their own advanced training to pay attention to Iron class drama. The Silver and Bronze class students think it's hilarious and start placing bets on how badly Kael will lose. And the Iron class students are split between feeling sorry for Kael and being annoyed that he's about to make their entire class look even worse. But Kael doesn't care about any of that. He's got 1 week to advance his training enough to beat Terrence, and he's going to use every single hour. For the next 7 days, Kael follows a brutal routine. He wakes up at 4 in the morning before anyone else is awake and goes to the abandoned training ground on the edge of campus where nobody goes because the equipment is all broken and rusty. He practices the shattered star method for 2 hours every morning, fragmenting his circuits and rebuilding them stronger each time. The pain never gets easier, but he gets better at enduring it. After morning training, he attends regular classes, but now instead of just going through the motions, he's actively studying his opponents, watching how they move, learning their patterns. During lunch breaks, while other students relax, Kael goes to the academy library and reads every combat manual he can find. He's looking for specific information about Terrence's fighting style, and he finds some old tournament records showing that Terrence has a very predictable pattern. Terrence always opens with a high overhead slash, trying to use his superior strength to overwhelm his opponent. Then he follows up with a shield bash and a low sweep. It's a simple 3-move combo, but it works on most Iron Class students because they panic under pressure. Kael memorizes the pattern and starts planning his counter. After classes end, Kael goes back to the abandoned training ground and practices for another 4 hours. He doesn't just practice the Shattered Star method, he also drills basic combat techniques because raw power means nothing if you can't apply it properly. He practices footwork, dodging imaginary attacks, and positioning himself for counterstrikes. He practices his sword swings thousands of times until his arms feel like they're gonna fall off. He practices channeling his aura into his blade at the exact moment of impact to maximize damage. By day 3 of this routine, Kael's body is completely wrecked. His muscles are torn, his hands are covered in blisters from gripping the sword, and he's lost weight because he's burning so many calories. But his aura level has jumped to 2nd circle, which is actually the baseline for bronze class students. He's made in 3 days what should have taken him months. On day 4, something else changes. While practicing the Shattered Star method, Kael discovers that his fragmented circuits allow him to do something unique. He can store aura in multiple locations throughout his body and release it all at once for massive burst damage. It's like charging up multiple bombs inside yourself and detonating them simultaneously. He tests this technique by channeling aura into both his legs and his sword arm, then releasing it all in one explosive forward thrust. The result is insane. His body launches forward so fast he's basically teleporting, and his sword strike hits the practice dummy with enough force to completely shatter it into splinters. Kael stares at the destroyed dummy in shock because he just did something that should require at least 4th circle aura, and he's only at 2nd circle. This is the real power of the Shattered Star method. It doesn't give you more total energy than normal methods, but it allows you to use what you have way more efficiently through concentrated bursts. By day 7, Kael is ready. His aura level is now at peak 2nd circle, almost touching 3rd circle. His body is lean and battle-hardened from a week of non-stop training. And most importantly, his mind is sharp, focused, and completely confident. He knows he can win this duel. On the morning of the duel, Kael wakes up at his usual 4 a.m. and does one final training session. He doesn't push as hard because he needs to conserve energy for the fight, but he runs through all his techniques one last time, making sure everything is perfect. He practices his footwork, his aura control, and his burst technique until he can do them all without thinking. When he returns to his dorm to shower and change, his roommate is finally there, and the guy looks at Kael like he's seeing a ghost. The roommate says something like, "What the hell happened to you?" Because in just 1 week, Kael has visibly transformed. He's lost the soft look he had before, and now his body is lean and defined with muscle. His eyes, which used to be dull and defeated, now have this sharp predatory focus. Even his posture has changed. He stands straighter, moves with more confidence. The roommate actually seems a little nervous, which is satisfying for Kael because this is the same guy who's been mocking him for months. The duel is scheduled for noon at the main training arena. By the time Kael arrives, the stands are packed with students from all classes. Everyone wants to see this. They're expecting a complete massacre, and they're here for the entertainment. Kael walks into the arena, and the crowd immediately starts laughing and jeering. Someone yells out that he should just forfeit now and save himself the medical bills. Another voice shouts that they should have made this a betting event because it's free money. Kael ignores all of it and walks to his side of the arena, where he does some light stretches to warm up. Terrence enters from the opposite side, and he's playing it up for the crowd, flexing his muscles and waving to his friends in the stands. He's wearing his full training armor, which is allowed in official duels, and he's carrying his preferred weapon, a heavy bastard sword that requires 2 hands to wield properly. Kael, by contrast, is wearing minimal armor, just light leather padding, and he's carrying a standard Academy-issue longsword. The size difference between them is notable. Terrence is about 6 feet tall and built like a tank, while Kael is 5'10" and lean, so visually it looks like a completely unfair fight. The referee for the duel is Instructor Vold, who looks absolutely miserable about having to officiate this. He explains the rules, which are simple: fight until one person surrenders or is unable to continue. Killing blows are obviously forbidden, and if either fighter does something that would have been lethal in a real fight, the referee will call the match. Both fighters take their positions about 30 feet apart in the center of the arena. The crowd goes quiet for a moment, building up the tension. Then Instructor Vold raises his hand and shouts, "Begin." Terrence immediately charges forward, just like Kael predicted. He closes the distance in 3 long strides and brings his heavy sword up for a massive overhead slash, putting all his weight and strength behind it. This is the same opening move Terrence always uses, and 90% of the time it works because the sheer force of it overwhelms his opponent. But Kael doesn't panic. He doesn't try to block the attack either, because blocking a power strike like that when you're physically weaker is suicide. The force will just blow through your guard and hit you anyway. Instead, Kael does something that surprises everyone. He steps forward into Terrence's attack. By moving inside Terrence's swing arc, the blade passes over Kael's head, missing by inches, and now Kael is standing right in Terrence's personal space where the big sword is useless because there's no room to swing it. Kael's counter is instant. He channels all his stored aura from his legs and core into his right arm and delivers a devastating palm strike directly to Terrence's solar plexus. The impact sounds like a thunderclap and Terrence's eyes go wide as all the air is driven from his lungs. He stumbles backward gasping and the crowd goes completely silent because what the hell just happened? Terrence tries to recover and swings his sword in a wide horizontal arc to force Kael back, but Kael is already moving. He ducks under the swing and uses his burst technique to close the distance again, launching himself forward with explosive speed. This time Kael goes for Terrence's legs, sweeping with his own leg while simultaneously channeling aura into a sword strike aimed at Terrence's head. Terrence manages to block the sword strike with his gauntlet, but he can't stop the leg sweep and he goes down hard, landing on his back with a loud crash. The crowd is freaking out now because this is not how anyone expected this fight to go. Kael should have been beaten in the first 10 seconds, but instead he's dominating. Terrence rolls to the side and gets back up, his face red with anger and embarrassment. He charges again, but now he's sloppy because he's emotional. He throws a wild punch followed by another overhead slash, both attacks telegraphed and easy to read. Kael dodges both and counters with a quick slash across Terrence's arm, drawing first blood. It's not a deep cut, just enough to show that Kael could have seriously hurt him if he wanted to. Terrence is panicking now. He's breathing hard, his movements are getting slower and less coordinated. Kael, on the other hand, looks completely calm, like this is just another training exercise. He's not even breathing hard yet because he's been conserving his energy, only using burst techniques when necessary. Terrence makes one last desperate attempt. He channels all his remaining aura into his sword, making the blade glow bright red, and charges forward with a straightforward thrust aimed at Kael's chest. It's a powerful attack, but also completely predictable. Kael sidesteps the thrust at the last possible moment, and as Terrence's momentum carries him forward, Kael brings his sword down on Terrence's back with a two-handed strike, channeling all his stored aura into the blow. The impact sends Terrence crashing face first into the arena floor, and his sword goes flying out of his hands. Kael immediately points his sword at the back of Terrence's neck and holds the position. The message is clear: if this were a real fight, Terrence would be dead right now. Instructor Vold steps forward and raises his hand. Match over. Kael Verdant wins. The arena is completely silent for about 3 seconds and then it explodes with noise. Some people are cheering because they just witnessed an incredible upset. Others are shouting in disbelief, demanding to know how the weakest student just destroyed a mid-ranked fighter. Some of the students who bet against Kael are literally pulling their hair out because they just lost money. Up in the stands, Kael can see some of the bronze and silver class students actually looking impressed, which is probably the first time anyone from a higher class has acknowledged his existence. Kael helps Terrence to his feet, which is the proper etiquette after a duel. Terrence looks absolutely humiliated. He can't even make eye contact. He mutters something like, "How did you get so strong?" and Kael just shrugs and says, "I trained hard." Terrence walks off the arena floor with his friends following behind, and Kael can hear them arguing about what just happened. Instructor Vold looks at Kael with this weird expression, like he's trying to figure out if Kael somehow cheated, but there's no evidence of cheating. Kael won through legitimate skill and technique. After the duel, Kael becomes something of a minor celebrity in Iron class. Students who used to mock him now want to know his training secrets. His roommate suddenly tries to be friendly, asking if Kael can give him tips. But Kael keeps his distance from most of them because he remembers from his future memories that most of these people will eventually drop out or remain mediocre forever. He doesn't have time to waste on people who aren't serious about improving. What Kael doesn't realize is that someone very important witnessed his duel. Up in the VIP section of the stands reserved for instructors and staff, there was a woman watching the fight with great interest. Her name is Lady Seraphine Vale, and she's the youngest instructor at the academy, teaching the gold class advanced combat techniques. She's only 25, but she's already at 7th circle aura, which makes her one of the strongest fighters in the entire kingdom. Lady Seraphine has long silver hair tied back in a ponytail, sharp green eyes, and she's wearing the academy instructor uniform, which includes a fitted jacket with the academy crest. Lady Seraphine watched Kael's entire fight, and she noticed something that nobody else did. When Kael used his burst technique to close distance, his aura flickered in a very specific pattern that she recognizes. It's the signature of fragmented circuits, which is something she knows about because she researched rare aura phenomena for her thesis when she was a student. Fragmented circuits are supposed to be a permanent disability that can't be trained, but here's this Iron class kid somehow using it as a weapon. She makes a mental note to keep an eye on Kael because he's either incredibly lucky or he knows something about aura training that even the academy doesn't teach. The next few weeks pass and Kael continues his brutal training routine. His rank in Iron class shoots up rapidly because once you prove you can win duels, other students start challenging you to try and take your spot, and Kael beats every single one of them. Within a month, he's moved from last place in Iron class to first place. This should be a good thing, but it actually causes problems because now Kael has caught the attention of the Bronze class students, and some of them don't like that an Iron class student is getting attention. One day after class, Kael is approached by a Bronze class student named Marcus Gray. Marcus is a tall blonde guy from a minor noble family, and he's got this entitled attitude like the world owes him something. Marcus challenges Kael to a duel, claiming that he wants to put the Iron class upstart in his place. Kael accepts immediately because backing down would make him look weak. The duel is scheduled for 3 days later, and word spreads through the academy again. This time the stakes feel different because it's not just an Iron class squabble anymore, it's a cross-class challenge, and those rarely happen. Kael spends those 3 days training even harder. He's now at 3rd circle aura and working toward 4th, but he knows that Marcus is at solid 4th circle, so on paper Marcus should win. But Kael has his burst technique, and he's been refining it, making it faster and more powerful. He's also developed a new technique where he can fragment his aura mid-strike, creating a secondary explosion of force that's almost impossible to defend against because even if you block the initial attack, the fragmented burst hits you anyway. The day of the duel arrives, and this time the entire arena is packed. Even some gold class students show up to watch, which never happens for bronze versus iron matches. Marcus enters the arena looking confident, wearing expensive custom armor that probably cost more than Kael's family makes in a year. Kael enters wearing the same light leather padding he always wears and carrying his standard sword. The visual difference makes it look like Marcus should destroy him. The match starts and Marcus immediately shows why he's bronze class. His movements are faster, more refined than Terrence's ever were. He opens with a complex feint attack, pretending to go high but actually attacking low, forcing Kael to react. Kael blocks the low strike, but Marcus chains into a second attack, then a third, creating a continuous combo that pushes Kael backward. The crowd is cheering for Marcus because it looks like he's dominating. But Kael is actually smiling because he's analyzing Marcus's rhythm. Every fighter has a rhythm, a pattern to how they chain their attacks together, and Marcus's rhythm is fast, fast, pause, fast. After 3 quick strikes, Marcus always pauses for a split second to readjust his footing, and that's the opening Kael needs. Kael deliberately takes a hit to his shoulder armor, letting Marcus think he's getting overwhelmed. Then, during the pause, Kael explodes forward with his burst technique. The speed catches Marcus completely off guard. Kael closes the distance and delivers a devastating knee strike to Marcus's gut, followed immediately by a pommel strike to his face with the hilt of his sword. Marcus stumbles backward, blood pouring from his nose, and his eyes are watering. Kael doesn't let up. He presses the advantage with a series of rapid strikes aimed at Marcus's joints, his elbows, his knees, anywhere that will compromise mobility. Marcus tries to defend, but Kael is using his fragmented burst technique on every strike, so even when Marcus blocks the attacks, the secondary explosions still damage him. Within 30 seconds, Marcus is on the defensive, completely overwhelmed. He tries to create space by unleashing a wide aura wave attack that forces Kael to back off, but Kael just stores more aura during the brief pause, and then launches himself forward again, even faster than before. This time Kael goes for the finish. He channels all his stored aura into his legs and leaps high into the air about 10 feet up. Then he brings his sword down in a massive overhead strike directly at Marcus's head. Marcus panics and raises both arms to block, crossing them above his head and channeling all his aura into defense. It's a solid defensive technique that should stop most attacks, but Kael's fragmented burst is designed specifically to break through defenses. The sword strike hits Marcus's crossed arms, and there's a massive explosion of force. Marcus's aura shield shatters completely, and the impact drives him to his knees. Kael lands behind Marcus and immediately spins around, placing his sword at Marcus's throat. Match over. The arena goes absolutely insane. An Iron class student just defeated a Bronze class student, and it wasn't even close. Marcus sits on the ground in shock, unable to process what just happened. Some of the Bronze class students in the stands are shouting protests, claiming Kael must have cheated somehow, but there's no evidence of cheating. Kael won through pure skill. Up in the VIP section, Lady Seraphine is watching with a small smile on her face because she's now certain that Kael has discovered something revolutionary about aura training. After this duel, Kael's reputation at the academy completely changes. He's no longer seen as a joke or an easy target. Iron class students look up to him as proof that their class isn't worthless. Bronze and Silver class students start to respect him, recognizing that he's legitimately skilled. Even some Gold class students start paying attention, wondering how far this kid can go. But not everyone is happy about Kael's rise. There are students from powerful families who see him as a threat to the natural order of things, where noble bloodlines are supposed to guarantee success. One of these students is a guy named Damien Rothschild. Damien is Crimson Class, the absolute elite tier, and he comes from one of the wealthiest families in the kingdom. He's 19 years old at 5th Circle Aura, and he's been the top-ranked first-year student since the beginning of the term. Damien has black hair, slicked back, pale skin, and he always wears expensive jewelry even during training. He's got this aristocratic sneer that makes him look like he's constantly smelling something bad. Damien hears about Kael's victory over Marcus, and he's annoyed because in his mind someone from Iron Class shouldn't be getting this much attention. Damien approaches Kael one day in the dining hall where everyone can see. He walks up to Kael's table with his entourage of Crimson Class followers and says something like, "I hear you think you're strong because you beat a Bronze Class student. That's cute. How about you duel someone from Crimson Class so we can show you where you really belong?" The entire dining hall goes quiet because everyone's watching. Kael looks up at Damien and asks who he wants to fight. Damien smirks and says, "Not me, I wouldn't waste my time on someone so weak, but my friend here will handle you." He gestures to one of his followers, a guy named Victor, who's also Crimson Class at 5th Circle. Kael realizes this is a trap. Victor is way stronger than anyone Kael has fought so far, and if Kael refuses the challenge he'll look like a coward, but if he accepts and loses, his entire reputation will be destroyed. But Kael has already lived one life as a coward who backed down from every challenge, so he's not doing that again. He accepts the duel and sets the date for 1 week from now. Damien laughs and says he'll be watching because he wants to see the Iron Class hero get humiliated properly. Then he walks away with his group, leaving Kael sitting there while the entire dining hall whispers about how Kael is going to get destroyed. That night Kael realizes he has a serious problem. He's currently at peak 3rd Circle working toward 4th, but Victor is at solid 5th Circle, which is a massive gap. In normal circumstances this would be impossible to overcome. A 2-circle difference in aura level is like a child trying to fight a grown adult. But Kael has his fragmented burst technique which allows him to punch above his weight class. The question is, can he refine it enough in 1 week to bridge a 2-circle gap? Kael decides he needs to push his training to a whole new level. For the next week he basically stops attending classes, which is risky because if his grades drop too much he could get demoted back down in class ranking, but he doesn't have a choice, he needs every hour for training. He goes to the abandoned training ground and practices the Shattered Star method for 8 hours a day instead of his usual 4. The pain is excruciating beyond anything he's experienced before, because he's fragmenting his circuits more thoroughly, creating more storage points for aura throughout his body. By day 3 Kael breaks through to 4th Circle. His body is covered in bruises from the internal damage of forcibly advancing his circuits, and he's lost more weight because he's burning through his energy reserves so fast. But he's not done yet because 4th Circle still isn't enough to beat 5th Circle. On day 4 Kael develops a new variation of his burst technique. Instead of releasing stored aura in one direction, he figures out how to release it in multiple directions, simultaneously creating an area of effect burst that's much harder to dodge. He tests this by setting up multiple training dummies in a circle around himself, then releasing a radial burst that destroys all of them at once. On day 5 something unexpected happens. Kael is in the middle of training when Lady Seraphine shows up at the abandoned training ground. She's been watching him from a distance this whole week, and now she's decided to intervene. She walks up to Kael and says, "I know what you're doing. You're practicing the Shattered Star method, aren't you?" Kael is shocked because nobody should know about that technique. It was taught to him by a hermit in his future memories, and that hermit claimed to be the last living practitioner. But Lady Seraphine explains that she researched fragmented circuits for her thesis and came across ancient texts that mentioned the Shattered Star method, though the texts were incomplete and didn't explain how to actually use it. Lady Seraphine offers to help Kael refine his technique. She explains that while his current method works, it's also incredibly dangerous because fragmenting circuits wrong can permanently cripple your aura system or even kill you. She's seen cases where people tried to force their circuits to advance too quickly and ended up in a vegetative state. Kael is hesitant because accepting help means revealing his secrets, but he also recognizes that Lady Seraphine is offering knowledge that could save his life. He agrees to let her coach him. For the next 2 days Lady Seraphine works with Kael, adjusting his technique to make it safer and more efficient. She teaches him how to reinforce his circuits after fragmenting them so they don't collapse under pressure. She also teaches him advanced footwork and positioning techniques that Crimson Class students learn, giving Kael tools to avoid attacks instead of tanking them. Most importantly, she teaches him how to read an opponent's aura flow, which allows him to predict their attacks a split second before they happen. It's a skill that usually takes years to develop, but with Lady Seraphine's guidance and Kael's future memories, he picks it up in just 2 days. By the day of the duel, Kael is at peak 4th Circle, almost touching 5th, and he's refined his burst technique to the point where he can now do a triple burst, releasing stored aura from 3 different body locations simultaneously for devastating combination attacks. Lady Seraphine watches him practice one last time and tells him that while Victor is stronger in raw aura level, Kael has something Victor doesn't: real combat experience and the ability to think creatively under pressure. She says that Crimson class students are used to winning through overwhelming power, so they often don't develop good tactical skills. If Kael can outthink Victor, he can win. The day of the duel arrives, and this time the entire academy shows up. The stands are packed with students from every class, and even some of the senior instructors are watching. The headmaster of the academy, a stern old man named Headmaster Aldrich, is in the VIP section, which is significant because he rarely bothers to watch student duels. The atmosphere is electric. Everyone expects this to be a massacre where Kael gets utterly destroyed by a Crimson class student. Kael enters the arena and the crowd immediately starts jeering. Someone shouts that he should have stayed in Iron class where he belongs. Another voice yells that this is what happens when trash gets too arrogant. Kael ignores all of it and walks to his position. Victor enters from the opposite side and he looks supremely confident. He's wearing Crimson class combat armor, which is enchanted with defensive runes, and he's carrying a spear, which is his weapon of choice. Victor is a tall, muscular guy with short brown hair and a square jaw, and he moves with the kind of fluid grace that comes from years of professional training. The referee this time is Lady Seraphine, which surprises some people because she usually doesn't officiate student duels. She explains the rules and both fighters take their positions. The crowd goes silent, building tension. Lady Seraphine raises her hand and shouts begin. Victor doesn't charge like Terrence or Marcus did. Instead, he takes a defensive stance and waits, analyzing Kael's first move. This is the difference between fighting lower-class students and fighting Crimson. Someone who's been properly trained, Victor knows that rushing in carelessly against an unknown opponent is stupid. Kael realizes he's going to have to make the first move, so he charges forward, but not at full speed. He's probing Victor's defense, looking for openings. Victor responds with a quick spear thrust aimed at Kael's center mass. It's a testing strike, not meant to finish the fight, just meant to gauge Kael's reaction speed. Kael sidesteps the thrust and tries to close distance, but Victor immediately pulls the spear back and performs a spinning strike that forces Kael to retreat. This exchange happens several times, Kael trying to get inside Victor's reach and Victor keeping him at bay with expert spear work. The crowd is getting restless because nothing dramatic is happening yet, just two fighters circling each other and trading probing attacks. But anyone who knows combat can see that this is a high-level exchange. Victor is trying to maintain optimal range for his spear, while Kael is trying to find any gap in Victor's defense to close distance and use his burst technique. For almost 2 full minutes, neither fighter commits to a real attack. Then Kael does something unexpected. He deliberately throws his sword, just chucks it directly at Victor's face. It's not a killing throw, just meant to distract, and it works. Victor reflexively moves his spear to deflect the thrown sword, and for a split second his guard is open. Kael uses that split second to activate his triple burst technique, launching himself forward at incredible speed, while simultaneously channeling aura into both his fists. Kael closes the distance before Victor can recover and delivers a 1-2 punch combination to Victor's torso. The first punch cracks Victor's enchanted armor, and the second punch breaks through it, completely hitting Victor's chest with enough force to knock the wind out of him. Victor stumbles backward, gasping, but he manages to keep hold of his spear and immediately counterattacks with a desperate upward thrust. Kael barely dodges, the spear grazes his cheek, drawing blood, but not causing serious damage. Both fighters reset, backing away from each other. Victor is breathing hard now, and there's a look of shock on his face because nobody has ever broken his armor before. Kael retrieves his sword from where it landed and settles back into a fighting stance. The crowd is going absolutely wild because an Iron-class student just landed a solid hit on a Crimson-class fighter. Up in the VIP section, Headmaster Aldrich is leaning forward in his seat, looking genuinely interested for the first time. Victor realizes he's been underestimating Kael and decides to stop playing around. He channels his full 5th circle aura into his spear, making the weapon glow bright blue with power. Then he performs a technique called Piercing Storm, which involves throwing multiple rapid spear thrusts so fast they create afterimages, making it look like dozens of spears are attacking at once. It's an advanced technique that requires immense aura control and speed. Kael sees the attack coming and knows he can't dodge all those thrusts, so instead he does something crazy. He channels all his stored aura into a defensive burst, creating an explosive wave of force around his body that disrupts the incoming spear thrusts, knocking them slightly off course. Most of the thrusts still hit him, but instead of piercing through, they just leave shallow cuts on his arms and legs. It's still damage, but not enough to end the fight. While Victor is committed to the Piercing Storm attack, Kael pushes through the pain and charges forward again. This time he uses his area of effect burst, releasing stored aura in all directions simultaneously. The burst hits Victor from multiple angles, disrupting his concentration and breaking his attack sequence. Kael follows up with a sword strike aimed at Victor's already damaged chest armor, and the blade cuts clean through, hitting Victor's shoulder and drawing significant blood. Victor screams and drops his spear, clutching his injured shoulder. Kael immediately kicks the spear away so Victor can't retrieve it, then points his sword at Victor's throat. The message is clear: surrender or this fight continues and you're going to lose more blood. Victor stares at Kael for a long moment, his face a mixture of pain, shock, and humiliation. Then he says the words everyone's waiting for: I surrender. Lady Seraphine immediately raises her hand and calls the match. Winner Kael Verdant. The arena explodes with noise, but this time it's different. Some people are cheering, genuinely impressed by what they just witnessed. Others are shouting in disbelief, unable to accept that Kael just defeated a Crimson class student. Up in the stands, Damien Rothschild is standing with his hands gripping the railing so hard his knuckles are white. His face is red with anger because his plan to humiliate Kael completely backfired. Kael helps Victor to his feet, which is proper duel etiquette. Victor looks at him and says, how the hell are you this strong? You're supposed to be iron class. Kael just says, I trained harder than anyone else. Medical staff rush onto the arena floor to treat Victor's shoulder wound, and Kael walks off the arena floor. As he exits, he can see Lady Seraphine giving him a small approving nod. After this duel, Kael's status at the academy completely changes. He's no longer just the iron class upstart who got lucky. He's now recognized as a legitimate threat, someone who can compete with even the highest tier students. The academy administration is forced to acknowledge his growth, and within a week Kael receives an official notice that he's being promoted from iron class to bronze class, effective immediately. This is almost unprecedented because class promotions usually only happen at the end of the semester, but Kael's combat record is so impressive they can't justify keeping him in iron class anymore. Moving to bronze class comes with significant benefits. Kael gets moved to a much better dorm building with actual heating and working plumbing. He gets access to better training facilities and equipment. And most importantly, he starts training under more competent instructors who actually know what they're teaching. But it also comes with new challenges because now Kael is surrounded by students who are all at his level or higher, and they're not going to underestimate him like iron class students did. The next few months pass and Kael continues improving. He breaks through to 5th circle, making him equal in aura level to most Crimson class students. His combat techniques become more refined, and he starts developing his own unique fighting style that combines the burst technique with traditional swordsmanship, creating something that nobody knows how to counter. He also starts making some actual friends at the academy. There's a girl named Alara who's in bronze class with him, specializing in archery and reconnaissance. She's got short red hair and freckles, and she's one of the few people who doesn't treat Kael differently after learning about his rapid rise through the ranks. There's also a guy named Thomas who's a defensive specialist using sword and shield. Thomas is from a common family like Kael, so they bond over their shared experience of being looked down on by noble-born students. And then there's Maya, who's a mage in training focusing on elemental magic. She's quiet and bookish but absolutely deadly in combat because she can cast spells while maintaining perfect tactical awareness. These three become Kael's regular training partners, and they push each other to improve. They run joint training exercises where they practice fighting as a team, which is important because the Academy's major evaluation isn't individual duels, it's the annual team tournament that happens at the end of the year. The team tournament is a huge deal because the winning team gets significant rewards, including premium training resources, access to restricted sections of the Academy library, and recommendations for prestigious positions after graduation. As the months pass toward the end of the year, the Academy starts preparing for the annual Christmas festival. This is a massive event that runs for 3 days and includes not just the team tournament but also exhibitions, demonstrations, and social gatherings where students can network with visiting nobles and military officials. The Christmas festival is the single most important event in the Academy's calendar because it's where students can make names for themselves and secure their futures. Kael forms a team with Alara, Thomas, and Maya for the tournament. They call themselves Team Verdant, which is technically named after Kael's family, but really it's just because they needed a name and that one sounded decent. The tournament format is simple. Teams of 4 compete in elimination matches where the goal is to either eliminate all opposing team members or capture their team flag. It's a mix of combat strategy and tactical thinking because you need to balance offense and defense. The tournament bracket is announced 2 weeks before Christmas, and Team Verdant is placed in the lower bracket, which means they have to fight more matches to reach the finals, but it also means they avoid some of the strongest teams in the early rounds. Their first match is against a team from Silver class, and it's not even close. Kael's team wins in under 5 minutes because Silver class students just don't have the combat experience to deal with Kael's aggressive fighting style, combined with Alara's precision archery, Thomas's defensive formations, and Maya's area control magic. Their second match is against a bronze class team, and this one is more competitive. The opposing team has a good strategy trying to split Kael's team up and pick them off individually, but Kael predicted this and had prepared countertactics. He has Thomas anchor their formation, preventing any splits, while Maya sets up magical barriers to control the battlefield. Alara provides covering fire from elevated positions, and Kael himself acts as the aggressive spear, constantly pushing forward and forcing the enemy team to react to him. They win this match in about 15 minutes. By the time they reach the quarterfinals, Team Verdant has gained a reputation as dark horses. Nobody expected a team, led by a former Iron Class student, to make it this far. Their quarterfinal match is against a Gold Class team, and this is where things get serious. The Gold Class team is led by a guy named Richard who's at 6th Circle Aura and known for his tactical brilliance. Richard's strategy is to use long-range attacks to keep Kael's team at bay, while wearing them down through attrition. The match starts, and immediately Richard's team unleashes a barrage of long-range magic and archery, forcing Team Verdant to take cover. Thomas raises his shield and creates a defensive formation, but the sustained bombardment is slowly pushing them back. Kael realizes they're going to lose if they stay on the defensive, so he makes a risky call. He tells Maya to create a smokescreen using her magic, then he uses his burst technique to charge through the smoke directly at Richard's position. Richard doesn't expect such an aggressive move, and his team's formation breaks apart, trying to respond to Kael's sudden charge. With their formation disrupted, Alara gets clean shots on their mage, taking him out of the fight. Thomas pushes forward with Maya behind him, and they engage Richard's remaining teammates in close combat. Kael reaches Richard, and they have an intense one-on-one duel in the middle of the battlefield. Richard is stronger in terms of raw aura, but Kael's burst technique gives him the edge in speed and explosive power. After about 30 seconds of intense exchange, Kael lands a solid hit on Richard's torso and follows up with a sweep that takes Richard's legs out. With their leader down, Richard's team surrenders. Team Verdant advances to the semifinals. Their semifinal match is scheduled for Christmas Eve, which is the second day of the festival. By this point, the entire academy is talking about Team Verdant and how far they've come. Their opponents in the semifinals are a Crimson Class team led by none other than Damien Rothschild. That's right, the same noble who tried to humiliate Kael months ago by having him fight Victor. Damien is furious that he has to fight Kael's team because in his mind this is embarrassing. A Crimson Class elite should never be in a position where he might lose to someone from a lower class. Damien's team is stacked with talent. Besides Damien himself, who's now at peak 5th circle, almost at 6th, there's a girl named Vanessa who specializes in ice magic and can create battlefield hazards. There's a guy named Leopold who uses twin short swords and is known for his incredible speed. And there's Victor, the same spear user who Kael defeated in their duel months ago. Victor's shoulder has healed, but he still has a psychological scar from losing to Kael, and you can see the nervousness in his eyes when the teams face each other before the match. The semi-final match takes place in the main arena on Christmas Eve evening. The stands are absolutely packed with what looks like the entire academy in attendance, plus visiting nobles and officials. There are magical light displays decorating the arena, and snow is falling, which is apparently created by weather mages to add atmosphere. The Christmas festival is in full swing with vendors selling food and drinks around the arena and a festive mood in the air, but all of that fades when the two teams step onto the battlefield. The referee for this match is Headmaster Aldrich himself, which shows how significant this match is considered. He explains the rules one more time, even though everyone knows them by now, and signals for both teams to take their starting positions. Team Verdant sets up in their standard formation with Thomas in front, Kael and Maya in the middle, and Alara positioned slightly behind and to the side for optimal firing angles. Damien's team sets up in a more aggressive formation with Leopold and Victor in front positions, clearly planning to rush in fast. Headmaster Aldrich raises his hand and the entire arena goes silent. Then he drops his hand and shouts, "Begin." Immediately Leopold and Victor charge forward at incredible speed, trying to close the distance before Alara can start shooting. But Kael anticipated this and had Maya prepare a spell in advance. Maya releases a massive wall of flames directly in Leopold and Victor's path, forcing them to stop or burn. While they're dealing with the firewall, Alara takes shots at them, forcing them to stay on the defensive. Damien realizes his initial rush strategy failed, so he signals for a formation change. Vanessa steps forward and creates a massive ice bridge over Maya's firewall, giving Leopold and Victor a path to advance. This is smart tactical thinking, but it also means Vanessa used a lot of mana early, which will limit her later in the fight. Leopold and Victor cross the ice bridge and engage Thomas in close combat while Kael supports from behind. It becomes a chaotic melee with multiple simultaneous duels happening. Kael is fighting Victor again, and this time Victor is much more cautious. He learned from their previous duel not to underestimate Kael's burst technique, so he's fighting defensively using his spear's range advantage to keep Kael at bay. Meanwhile, Thomas is handling Leopold, which is a tough match because Leopold's dual sword style is specifically designed to overwhelm shield users with rapid attacks from multiple angles. Maya is dueling Vanessa in a mage battle, trading elemental spells back and forth. and Alara is trying to provide support with her arrows, but Damien is countering her shots with his own aura-enhanced throwing knives. The match goes on for almost 10 minutes with neither team gaining a decisive advantage. The crowd is going absolutely insane because this is the most intense match of the entire tournament. Then Kael notices something. Vanessa is slowing down, her spellcasting is taking longer, which means her mana is running low from creating that ice bridge earlier. He signals to Maya using a hand gesture they practiced, and Maya immediately understands. She stops trading spells with Vanessa and instead focuses on defense, letting Vanessa waste more mana trying to break through her barriers. While Maya is keeping Vanessa occupied, Kael makes his move. He uses a triple burst technique to break away from Victor's spear range and charges directly at Damien. This is a risky play because Damien is the strongest member of the opposing team, but Kael's logic is that if he can take out the leader, the rest of the team will crumble. Damien sees Kael coming and smirks because he's been waiting for this. He channels his full aura into his sword, creating a massive blade of pure energy, and prepares to meet Kael head-on. They clash in the center of the arena, and the impact creates a shockwave that knocks snow and dust into the air. Kael and Damien trade blows at incredible speed, their weapons moving so fast they're creating afterimages. The crowd can barely follow what's happening because both fighters are moving at speeds that shouldn't be possible for students. Damien is stronger in raw power, but Kael is faster and more unpredictable. Every time Damien thinks he has Kael's pattern figured out, Kael switches tactics and attacks from a different angle. While Kael is keeping Damien busy, Alara gets a clean shot on Vanessa, whose defenses are down because she's out of mana. The arrow hits Vanessa in the leg, not a critical hit, but enough to take her out of active combat. With Vanessa down, Maya is free to support Thomas, and together they manage to overwhelm Leopold, driving him back. Victor realizes his team is falling apart and makes a desperate attempt to help Damien by attacking Kael from behind, but Alara intercepts him with an arrow to his sword arm, causing him to drop his spear. Now it's 4 against 1, with Damien standing alone against Team Verdant. Damien realizes he's going to lose, but he's too proud to surrender. He makes one final desperate attack, channeling all his remaining aura into a massive overhead slash aimed at Kael. It's the same type of power attack that Terrence used way back in Kael's first duel, and Kael counters it the exact same way. He steps inside Damien's swing, letting the blade pass over his head, and delivers a devastating palm strike directly to Damien's chest using his fragmented burst technique. The impact sends Damien flying backward, and he crashes into the snow, unable to breathe. Kael walks over and points his sword at Damien's throat. "Surrender," Kael says quietly, but the entire arena hears it, because magical amplification carries his voice. Damien stares up at Kael with pure hatred in his eyes, but he has no choice. He says the words, "I surrender." The arena explodes with noise louder than anything Kael has ever heard. Team Verdant just defeated a Crimson-class team in the semifinals, which means they're going to the finals. Alara and Maya are jumping up and down celebrating. Thomas is laughing and clapping Kael on the back. Even some of the students who used to mock Kael are cheering because they just witnessed something incredible. Up in the VIP section, Headmaster Aldrich is nodding approvingly, and Lady Seraphine has this proud smile on her face. Damien and his team leave the arena in disgrace. Some of Damien's noble friends are shouting protests, claiming that Team Verdant must have cheated somehow, but nobody takes them seriously because the match was overseen by the headmaster himself. Damien's reputation takes a massive hit because he just lost to a team led by someone who was Iron Class only a few months ago, and that's the kind of embarrassment that noble families don't forget. The finals are scheduled for Christmas Day, which is the third and final day of the festival. Team Verdant's opponents in the finals are a team led by a girl named Captain Iris Nightwind. Iris is a third-year student, which means she's had 2 more years of training than Kael, and she's at 7th Circle Aura, putting her on the same level as Lady Seraphine. Her team consists of 3 other third-year students, all at 6th Circle, and they've won the Christmas Festival tournament for the past 2 years in a row. They're the favorites to win, and most people think Team Verdant got lucky to make it this far but won't stand a chance in the finals. Kael and his team spend Christmas Eve night strategizing. They know they're outmatched in terms of raw power, but they've made it this far by fighting smart, so they're going to keep doing that. They study recordings of Iris's previous matches, looking for weaknesses and patterns. What they discover is that Iris's team fights with near-perfect coordination because they've been training together for years, but that coordination also makes them predictable because they always use the same formations and tactics. Christmas Day arrives, and the atmosphere is electric. This is the biggest event of the entire year, and everyone wants to see if Team Verdant can pull off the impossible or if Iris's team will maintain their dominance. The arena is decorated with even more elaborate Christmas displays than the day before, with magical trees that shimmer and glow and artificial snow that never melts. There's a massive crowd, including nobles from all over the kingdom, who traveled specifically to watch this match. The teams enter the arena and the contrast is striking. Iris's team is wearing matching armor with their team crest emblazoned on it, looking like professional soldiers. Team Verdant is wearing mismatched equipment because they couldn't afford custom armor, looking like the scrappy underdogs they are. Iris herself is a tall woman with long black hair tied in a braid and cold blue eyes that seem to analyze everything. When she looks at Kael, there's no malice in her expression, just professional assessment, like she's looking at an interesting puzzle. Headmaster Aldrich once again serves as referee. He gives a speech about how the Christmas festival represents the Academy's values of growth, excellence, and honor. Then he signals for the match to begin. Unlike previous matches, neither team rushes forward immediately. Both teams know this is going to be a strategic battle, so they take their time analyzing each other's formations and looking for openings. Iris's team moves first, executing a standard encirclement maneuver where they split into two groups trying to flank Team Verdant from both sides. It's a textbook tactic but executed with such precision that it's hard to counter. Kael signals for his team to form a defensive circle with Thomas anchoring the center. Maya creates barriers to slow down the flanking attempts while Elara focuses fire on whichever group gets too close. The match becomes a war of attrition with both teams trading attacks but neither gaining significant advantage. Iris's team has superior power and experience, but Team Verdant has better energy efficiency and adaptability. Every time Iris's team commits to a strong attack, Team Verdant shifts their formation to minimize damage, then counters when the opponents are recovering. It's exhausting for both sides, and after 15 minutes of constant combat, everyone is breathing hard. Then Kael notices something crucial. One of Iris's teammates, a guy named Roland, is favoring his left leg slightly. It's barely noticeable, but Kael's trained eyes catch it. Roland must have taken damage in an earlier match that didn't fully heal, and now he's working through pain. Kael signals this to his team using their coded hand gestures, and they immediately adjust their strategy to target Roland specifically. Elara starts focusing all her arrows on Roland, forcing him to use more energy defending. Maya creates terrain hazards specifically positioned to make Roland's injured leg worse. Thomas pushes forward aggressively toward Roland's position. The strategy works, and within 2 minutes Roland is significantly slowed down, compromising Iris's team formation. Iris realizes what's happening and tries to compensate by having another teammate cover for Roland, but that creates a gap in their defense. Kael exploits that gap immediately. He uses his most powerful burst technique, yet a quintuple burst, where he releases stored aura from 5 different locations simultaneously, including both legs, both arms, and his core. The explosive speed launches him forward so fast he's literally a blur, and he crashes into Iris's defensive line with devastating force. His sword strikes take out one of Iris's teammates completely, and he immediately engages Iris herself in close combat. Fighting Iris is completely different from fighting anyone else Kael has faced. She's at 7th circle, which means her aura level is significantly higher than his 5th circle, and she has years more experience. But Kael has something she doesn't: his unique burst technique and his future memories, giving him tactical knowledge that someone his age shouldn't have. They trade blows at incredible speed, Kael using burst techniques to match Iris's superior power, while Iris uses her experience to predict and counter most of his attacks. While Kael is keeping Iris busy, his team is systematically taking apart her remaining teammates. Thomas and Maya work together to eliminate Roland, who's already weakened. Elara provides covering fire, preventing Iris's last teammate from helping. Within 3 minutes, it's 4 versus 1, with Iris standing alone just like Damien was. But unlike Damien, Iris doesn't lose her composure. She assesses the situation calmly and makes a tactical decision. Instead of trying to fight all 4 opponents at once, Iris focuses entirely on Kael. Her logic is that if she can eliminate the enemy leader, his team will fall apart. She unleashes a devastating combination attack using advanced techniques that Kael has never seen before. The attacks come from multiple angles simultaneously, and Kael's burst technique can't keep up. He takes several solid hits and gets knocked backward, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Iris presses her advantage, moving in for the finish. She raises her sword for a decisive strike aimed at Kael's chest. This is the moment that will determine the match. But Kael has been waiting for this. He deliberately let himself get hit and knocked back because he was storing aura the entire time, not releasing any, just letting it build up in every storage point throughout his body. Now he releases everything at once. The resulting explosion of aura is so massive that it creates a dome of pure force around Kael's body. Iris's strike hits the dome and bounces off, and before she can recover, Kael launches himself forward with more speed than he's ever achieved before. His burst technique, combined with every ounce of stored aura, creates velocity that shouldn't be physically possible. He closes the distance to Iris in literally 0.1 seconds and delivers a point-blank palm strike to her chest using his fragmented burst technique. The impact is devastating. Iris's armor cracks completely, and she's sent flying backward, crashing into the arena wall with enough force to create a crater. The entire arena goes silent because nobody can believe what just happened. Iris slowly pulls herself out of the crater and tries to stand, but her legs give out and she collapses to one knee. She's done. She doesn't have any energy left to continue fighting. Kael walks over to Iris and extends his hand to help her up. It's a gesture of respect, one warrior to another. Iris looks at his hand for a moment, then takes it and lets him pull her to her feet. She looks at him and says, "You're going to be something special, aren't you?" Kael just smiles and says, "I'm working on it." Iris officially surrenders and Headmaster Aldrich raises his hand, declaring Team Verdant the winners of the Christmas Festival tournament. The arena absolutely loses its mind. The crowd is screaming and cheering. Students are jumping out of their seats. Some people are crying because they just witnessed the greatest underdog story in Academy history. Team Verdant, former Iron Class students led by a guy who was literally the worst student in the entire Academy, just won the most prestigious tournament of the year, defeating teams from every class including veterans who'd won multiple years in a row. Kael's teammates rush over and tackle him in a group hug. They're all crying and laughing at the same time because they can't believe they actually did it. Up in the VIP section, Headmaster Aldrich is applauding, and even the visiting nobles are standing to show respect. Lady Seraphine is wiping tears from her eyes, clearly emotional about her student's achievement. The award ceremony happens immediately after the match. Headmaster Aldrich presents Team Verdant with their prizes, which include rare training resources that can help them advance multiple aura circles, access to the Academy's restricted library section, where advanced techniques are stored, and letters of recommendation to any military position or noble house they want. But more valuable than any physical prize is the reputation they've just earned. Team Verdant's names are now known throughout the kingdom, and they'll have opportunities they never could have imagined before. After the ceremony, there's a massive Christmas celebration with food, music, and dancing. Students from all classes come up to congratulate Kael and his team. Even some of the people who used to mock Kael are trying to befriend him now, which is pretty pathetic, but Kael handles it gracefully. He dances with Alara, who's blushing and clearly has developed feelings for him over their months of training together. He drinks with Thomas, who keeps saying, "I can't believe we actually won," over and over. He talks strategy with Maya, who's already planning how they can get even stronger. Lady Seraphine pulls Kael aside at one point during the celebration. She tells him that she's incredibly proud of his growth, and that she's recommended him for early promotion to Silver Class, which would happen at the start of the next semester. She also tells him something important. With the reputation he's built and the resources he's earned, he now has options beyond the Academy. Noble houses will be competing to recruit him. The military will offer him officer positions. He could even start his own mercenary company if he wanted. His future is no longer limited by his humble origins. That night, after the celebration ends, Kael goes back to his dorm and sits alone, processing everything that's happened. In his original timeline, he dropped out of the Academy as a failure and spent his life as a nobody. But in this timeline, he's completely changed his fate. He's gone from dead last in Iron Class to tournament champion. He's gone from being mocked by everyone to being respected and even feared. And most importantly, he's proven that noble birth and natural talent aren't the only paths to success, that hard work, strategic thinking, and refusing to give up can overcome almost any obstacle. But Kael also knows his journey isn't over. He's achieved incredible things at the Academy, but the Academy is just the beginning. The real world beyond these walls is much more dangerous and challenging. There are threats out there that make Academy duels look like children's games. He thinks about the memories from his future self, the images of battlefields covered in corpses, the knowledge that wars are coming that will threaten the entire kingdom. If he wants to truly change his fate, he needs to get even stronger. The next morning, Kael wakes up early and goes to meet with Headmaster Aldrich, who requested a private meeting. In the headmaster's office, Aldrich tells Kael something that changes everything. The kingdom is facing threats from neighboring nations, and there are rumors of a demonic incursion in the northern territories. The kingdom needs strong fighters now more than ever, and the Academy has been requested to send their best students to join the military's Special Operations Division. Headmaster Aldrich offers Kael a choice. He can stay at the Academy, continue his studies, and have a comfortable, safe path to a decent career. Or he can accept a commission as a junior officer in the Special Operations Division, leave the Academy early, and enter real combat where the stakes are life and death. Most students would choose to stay because the Special Operations Division has a high casualty rate, but Kael doesn't even hesitate. He accepts the commission immediately. His teammates Alara, Thomas, and Maya make the same choice. They've trained together, fought together, and won together, so they're going to face whatever comes next together. Lady Seraphine is assigned as their commanding officer, which makes sense since she's already at 7th Circle and has actual combat experience outside the Academy. Within 1 week of winning the Christmas Festival tournament, team Verdant leaves the academy and heads north toward the territories where demonic activity has been reported. Before leaving, Kael takes one last walk around the academy campus. He visits the abandoned training ground where he first started practicing the Shattered Star method. He remembers how weak and pathetic he was back then, how everyone mocked him, and how he almost gave up multiple times. But he didn't give up, and now look where he is. He's leaving the academy not as a dropout or a failure, but as a champion, as someone who proved that the system isn't absolute, that you can rise from the bottom to the top if you're willing to suffer and sacrifice for it. As Kael walks toward the academy gates where a military carriage is waiting to take him and his team north, he passes by groups of students. Some of them point and whisper about him. Some wave and call out good luck. Some just stare in awe. Kael doesn't acknowledge any of them, he just keeps walking forward toward his future. He's not the same person he was at the beginning of this year. That weak, scared boy who couldn't even manifest his aura properly is gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever challenges come next. The story could end here with Kael leaving the academy as a hero, but there's one more scene that shows just how much things have changed. As Kael's carriage is pulling away from the academy, Damien Rothschild appears one last time. He's standing by the gate with his arms crossed, watching the carriage leave. For a moment, Kael and Damien make eye contact through the carriage window. Damien's expression is complicated, a mixture of anger, respect, and something that might be jealousy. He nods once, a tiny acknowledgement that Kael earned his victory fairly. Kael nods back, not in a friendly way, but in a way that says, "We're not friends, but I respect that you're acknowledging reality." Then the carriage turns a corner and the academy disappears from view. Kael settles back in his seat next to his teammates and Lady Seraphine, who's reading mission briefings. Alara asks him if he's scared about what's coming, and Kael thinks about it for a moment before answering honestly. "Yeah, I'm scared, but being scared means you're about to do something worth doing." The carriage rolls north toward danger, toward war, toward a future that's uncertain but full of possibilities. Kael knows that the challenges ahead will make everything he faced at the academy look easy by comparison. The demons they're going to fight don't care about dueling etiquette or tournament rules. Real combat means real death, and Kael has already died once in his previous life, so he knows exactly what's at stake. But he also knows something that his enemies don't know yet. He's not just some talented student who got lucky. He's someone who's lived an entire life of failure and regret, who was given a second chance, and who clawed his way up from absolute bottom to the top through sheer determination and strategic thinking. He's someone who understands that power isn't just about raw strength, it's about using what you have in the smartest way possible. And most importantly, he's someone who has absolutely nothing to lose and everything to prove. As the carriage continues north through snowy forests and frozen plains, Kael closes his eyes and meditates, cycling his aura through his fragmented circuits and feeling the power flow through his body. He's at 5th circle now, but that's not nearly enough. He needs to reach 6th, 7th, 8th, and beyond. The demons they're going to face are reportedly at levels that exceed even the strongest human fighters, and if humanity is going to survive, Kael needs to become stronger than he ever thought possible. He thinks about the Christmas festival, about standing in that arena covered in blood and exhausted but victorious while thousands of people cheered his name. He thinks about how far he's come from being the Academy's biggest joke to being its champion. And he realizes that this is just the beginning of his story. The Academy was Chapter 1, teaching him the basics, testing his resolve, and proving that he had what it takes. But now Chapter 2 is starting, and this chapter is going to be written in real battlefields against real enemies, where the stakes aren't rankings or reputation but survival itself. The carriage rolls on through the winter landscape, heading toward the northern territories, where darkness gathers and demons wait. Kael opens his eyes and looks at his team, at these people who chose to follow him into danger instead of staying safe at the Academy. Alara catches his look and smiles nervously. Thomas cracks his knuckles, ready for whatever comes. Maya is already reviewing spell theory, preparing to adapt her magic for real combat. And Lady Seraphine looks up from her briefings and says, "We'll reach the forward base by tomorrow night. Get some rest while you can, because once we arrive the real work begins." Kael nods and settles back in his seat, but he doesn't sleep. He's too wired, too focused on what's coming. In his mind, he's already planning strategies, thinking about how to use his burst technique in real combat against enemies that won't hold back or follow rules. He's thinking about how to keep his team alive, because unlike Academy duels, real combat means if you lose, your friends die, and that's not acceptable. The sun sets and the carriage continues through the night, guided by magical lights. Snow falls steadily, covering the world in white like a blank page waiting to be written on. And somewhere in that snowy darkness, Kael Verdant, formerly the worst student in Astral Knight Academy, now a junior officer in the Kingdom's Special Operations Division, sits quietly and prepares himself for the war that's coming. The carriage reaches the forward military base late the next evening, just as Lady Seraphine predicted. The base is a fortified compound built into the side of a mountain with high stone walls, watchtowers, and magical barrier systems designed to keep demons out. As soon as Team Verdant arrives, they're immediately struck by how different this is from the academy. There are no fancy buildings or comfortable dorms, just functional barracks, mess halls, and armories. The soldiers here all have this hard look in their eyes, the look of people who've seen real combat and lost friends to it. Lady Seraphine leads her team to meet with Commander Arcturus, who's in charge of the Northern Defense operations. Arcturus is a grizzled veteran in his 50s with gray hair, a scarred face, and an aura that radiates 8th Circle power. When he sees Team Verdant, he looks distinctly unimpressed. He tells Lady Seraphine that he requested experienced soldiers, not fresh academy graduates who probably can't handle seeing real blood. Lady Seraphine defends her team, saying that Kael and his friends just won the Christmas festival tournament and have proven themselves capable. Commander Arcturus scoffs and says tournaments are games, real combat is survival, and there's a big difference between defeating an opponent in a controlled environment and killing a demon that's trying to rip your throat out. He assigns Team Verdant to patrol duty along the outer perimeter, which is basically grunt work meant to keep them out of the way. The implication is clear: he doesn't think they're ready for real operations, and he's putting them somewhere they can't cause problems. Kael accepts the assignment without complaint because he understands Arcturus's perspective. In the commander's position, Kael wouldn't trust fresh graduates either. Trust has to be earned, especially in life-or-death situations. So for the next week, Team Verdant runs boring patrol routes along the perimeter, watching for demon activity but not seeing anything significant. The other soldiers at the base mostly ignore them or treat them like children, which is frustrating but understandable. During this time, Kael continues his training, pushing himself to break through to 6th Circle. He practices the Shattered Star method every night, fragmenting his circuits even further and increasing his burst capacity. The pain is worse than ever because he's working at higher aura levels now, but he pushes through it. Alara practices her archery in the base's training ground, working on her accuracy and developing new techniques for hitting fast-moving targets. Thomas drills with the base's defensive specialists, learning formation tactics for real combat. And Maya studies demonic creatures, reading every report she can find about their weaknesses and vulnerabilities. On their 8th day at the base, something finally happens. Team Verdant is on their regular patrol route about 3 miles from the base when Alara spots movement in the tree line. She signals for the team to stop, and everyone immediately goes into combat formation. They watch the trees carefully, and after a moment several figures emerge. They're demons, but not the massive monstrous kind that Kael expected. These are called lesser imps, small creatures about 4 feet tall with red skin, claws, and basic intelligence. There are 6 imps, and they spot Team Verdant immediately. The imps screech and charge forward, moving with surprising speed. This is Kael's team's first real combat against actual enemies, and there's a moment of hesitation where everyone processes that this is real, these creatures are actually trying to kill them. But training takes over and they respond automatically. Thomas raises his shield and channels his aura, creating a defensive barrier. The first 2 imps crash into the barrier and bounce off stunned. Alara shoots one of them through the eye with an arrow, killing it instantly. Maya casts a fire spell that engulfs another imp, burning it to ash. Kael moves forward using a burst technique to close distance on the remaining 3 imps. His sword cuts through the first imp's neck, dropping it immediately. The second imp tries to dodge, but Kael's too fast, his blade catches it in the chest. The third imp attempts to flee, but Alara shoots it in the back before it can escape. The entire fight lasts maybe 15 seconds. When it's over, Team Verdant stands there breathing hard and staring at the corpses of the creatures they just killed. This is different from academy duels where defeated opponents get up and walk away. These imps are dead, their blood staining the snow and their bodies already starting to decompose into black ash, which is apparently what happens to demons when they die. Alara looks a little sick, like she might throw up. Thomas is gripping his shield hard enough that his knuckles are white. Maya is staring at the ash with a clinical expression, analyzing what just happened. And Kael feels strangely calm because he's already lived through years of regret in his previous life, so death isn't as shocking to him as it is to his teammates. He tells everyone they did well, and they need to report this encounter immediately because where there are lesser imps, there are usually larger demons nearby. They return to the base and report to Commander Arcturus. He's surprised that they encountered demons on what was supposed to be a quiet patrol route, and he's even more surprised that they handled it without casualties. He questions them extensively about the fight, wanting to know exactly what happened and how they responded. After hearing their account, he upgrades their assignment from patrol duty to active reconnaissance, which means they'll be venturing deeper into demon territory to gather intelligence. Over the next month, Team Verdant runs dozens of reconnaissance missions. They encounter more demons ranging from lesser imps to mid-tier wraiths, which are shadowy creatures that can phase through solid objects, to armored hellhounds, which are massive dog-like demons with fire breath. Each encounter is dangerous and Team Verdant takes injuries along the way. Alara gets slashed across the arm by a wraith's claws. Thomas gets partially burned by a hellhound's fire breath. Maya exhausts her mana reserves multiple times and collapses from the strain. And Kael accumulates dozens of cuts and bruises, pushing his body to its limits. But they survive every mission, and more importantly, they learn. They learn how demons fight, how they coordinate, how to predict their movements. They develop new tactics specifically designed for demon combat. They become more efficient, more deadly, more synchronized as a team. And the other soldiers at the base start to respect them because surviving in demon territory isn't easy, and these academy graduates are proving they can handle it. During this time, Kael finally breaks through to 6th Circle. It happens during a particularly brutal fight against a greater demon, a 10-foot-tall monstrosity with horns, armor plating, and strength that far exceeds anything human. The greater demon corners Team Verdant in a canyon, and Kael realizes they're about to die unless he does something drastic. He pushes his Shattered Star method beyond any level he's attempted before fragmenting his circuits so thoroughly that his body starts tearing itself apart from the inside. Blood pours from his nose and mouth, but he channels all that fragmented aura into one massive burst attack. The resulting explosion of power is so intense that it creates a crater in the ground and completely vaporizes the greater demon. Kael collapses immediately and his team has to carry him back to base. He spends 3 days unconscious in the medical ward while his body repairs the damage he caused. But when he wakes up, he can feel that his aura has advanced. He's now at 6th Circle, putting him on the same level as most of the veteran soldiers at the base. Lady Seraphine visits him in the medical ward and tells him that what he did was incredibly reckless and he could have killed himself. But she also admits that if he hadn't done it, his entire team would have died, so she can't really criticize the decision. She tells him that Commander Arcturus wants to see him once he's recovered because the commander has a special mission in mind. 2 days later, Kael meets with Commander Arcturus. The commander's attitude toward Team Verdant has completely changed. He no longer sees them as inexperienced children, but as capable soldiers who've proven themselves in real combat. Arcturus explains that intelligence reports indicate a massive demon army is gathering about 50 miles north of the base. The demons are building some kind of ritual site, and if they complete whatever they're planning, it could result in a full-scale invasion that would overwhelm the kingdom's defenses. The mission is to infiltrate the demon territory, locate the ritual site, and gather detailed intelligence about what the demons are planning. It's an extremely dangerous assignment because they'll be deep behind enemy lines with no support, and if they're discovered, they'll likely die. Most teams wouldn't be able to handle this level of mission, but Arcturus thinks Team Verdant might be capable because they've already proven they can survive in demon territory. Kael accepts the mission without hesitation. His teammates are more nervous because they understand how dangerous this is, but they trust Kael's judgment and they've come too far together to back out now. Lady Seraphine will accompany them as mission commander, which provides some reassurance since she's at 7th Circle and has the most combat experience. They spend 2 days preparing for the mission, gathering supplies, studying maps, and rehearsing contingency plans. The plan is to travel light and fast, avoiding demon patrols when possible and eliminating them quietly when necessary. They'll have 7 days to complete the mission. After that, they're assumed dead, and the base will proceed with other plans. The team departs at dawn, moving north into increasingly hostile territory. The landscape changes as they travel deeper into demon lands. The trees become twisted and blackened as if corrupted by dark energy. The ground is cracked and barren with pools of black liquid that bubble and steam. The air itself feels wrong, thick and oppressive, making it harder to breathe. This is what happens when demons establish a strong presence in an area. They literally corrupt the environment around them. For the first 3 days, they make good progress, avoiding most demon patrols and moving quickly through the corrupted landscape. They encounter occasional small groups of demons but eliminate them efficiently before any alarms can be raised. Maya's magical barriers help mask their presence, and Alara's scouting skills allow them to spot enemies before being spotted themselves. On the 4th day, things get complicated. They reach the outer perimeter of the demon army's main encampment and realize it's far larger than intelligence reports suggested. There are thousands of demons here, organized into military formations with clear command structures. This isn't just a random gathering, this is a full military force preparing for organized warfare. And at the center of the encampment, there's a massive structure that looks like a twisted cathedral built from black stone and bone. Kael realizes that getting close enough to gather detailed intelligence is going to be nearly impossible because the demon forces are too dense. But they didn't come all this way to turn back with incomplete information. He proposes a plan that Lady Seraphine initially rejects as too risky. The plan is to wait until nightfall, then have Kael infiltrate the structure alone while the rest of the team creates a diversion to draw demon forces away. Lady Seraphine argues that splitting up is a terrible idea, but Kael points out that moving as a group makes them easier to detect, and they need someone to get inside that structure to find out what the demons are planning. After a long debate, Lady Seraphine reluctantly agrees to the plan, but only if they modify it so she's the one who infiltrates while Kael leads the diversion team. Kael doesn't like this, but he understands her logic. She's stronger and more experienced, so she has a better chance of surviving if things go wrong. That night, they execute the plan. Kael, Elara, Thomas, and Maya position themselves on the eastern edge of the demon encampment and launch a coordinated attack. Maya unleashes massive fire spells that create explosions visible across the entire camp. Elara shoots flaming arrows that set demon structures on fire. Thomas creates as much noise as possible, banging his shield and shouting. And Kael uses his burst technique to dash around at high speed, making it look like there are more attackers than there actually are. The diversion works. Thousands of demons rush toward the eastern perimeter to deal with the perceived threat, leaving the center of the encampment relatively unguarded. Lady Seraphine uses this opportunity to slip into the twisted cathedral structure. The plan is for her to gather intelligence quickly and escape before the demons realize it's a diversion and return to the center. Meanwhile, Kael's team is fighting for their lives on the eastern perimeter. What started as a diversion has turned into a full battle with wave after wave of demons attacking their position. They're massively outnumbered, but they hold their ground through superior tactics and teamwork. Thomas anchors the defense with his shield, creating barriers that demons crash against. Maya rotates through different elemental spells, managing her mana carefully to avoid exhaustion. Elara takes precision shots targeting demon commanders and spellcasters. And Kael is everywhere, using his burst technique to rapidly move around the battlefield, eliminating threats and keeping the demons off balance. But they can't hold forever. After about 20 minutes of continuous combat, they're all exhausted and injured. Demons keep coming, and eventually they're going to be overwhelmed. Kael makes the call to start retreating, slowly falling back while maintaining defensive formation. The plan is to draw the demons away from the camp as far as possible, giving Lady Seraphine more time to complete her mission. Inside the twisted cathedral, Lady Seraphine is discovering something terrifying. The structure is filled with captured humans, hundreds of them chained to the walls and being used in some kind of ritual. Demon mages are channeling energy from these prisoners into a massive portal that's being constructed in the center of the cathedral. Lady Seraphine realizes this is a summoning portal designed to bring something from the demon realm into the human world, and based on the scale of the ritual, whatever they're summoning is incredibly powerful. She manages to record everything using a magical crystal that captures images and sounds, but as she's preparing to leave, she's discovered by a demon guard. The guard raises an alarm, and suddenly Lady Seraphine finds herself fighting multiple elite demons inside the cathedral. She's at 7th circle, so she's powerful, but there are too many of them, and she's trapped inside a structure with limited escape routes. Outside, Kael and his team hear the alarm from the cathedral and realize Lady Seraphine is in trouble. They're still fighting their own battle against hundreds of demons, but they make the decision to abandon their position and rush toward the cathedral to help her. It's a desperate move that leaves them completely exposed, but leaving Lady Seraphine to die isn't an option. The team fights their way through the demon encampment, taking casualties along the way. Thomas's armor is shattered, and he's bleeding from multiple wounds. Maya is running on fumes, having exhausted most of her mana. Elara is out of arrows and fighting with a knife. And Kael is pushing his burst technique beyond safe limits, his body starting to break down from the strain. But they keep moving forward because that's what soldiers do. They don't abandon their commander. They reach the cathedral and burst inside to find Lady Seraphine surrounded by demons, fighting brilliantly but clearly losing ground. Kael immediately launches himself at the nearest demon, using a burst technique to cross the distance instantly and delivering a devastating strike that splits the demon in half. His team follows, crashing into the demon formation and creating chaos. For a brief moment, they have the advantage of surprise, but then more demons pour into the cathedral and the situation becomes desperate. Lady Seraphine shouts for them to retreat, that she has the intelligence they need and they need to escape now. The team starts fighting their way back toward the cathedral exit, but they're cut off by a massive figure that blocks the doorway. It's a demon lord, a creature of immense power, standing 12 feet tall with armor made of living darkness and a sword that radiates pure malevolent energy. This is a being that operates at 9th circle aura, far beyond what any of them can handle. The demon lord speaks in a voice that sounds like grinding stones, saying that none of them will leave alive. He raises his sword to attack, and everyone knows they're about to die. But then something unexpected happens. Kael feels a surge of energy from deep inside his core, something he's never felt before. His fragmented circuits suddenly align in a new pattern, creating a resonance effect that multiplies his power exponentially. In technical terms, his aura briefly spikes to 7th circle, maybe even 8th, through pure desperation and the unique properties of his training method. Kael doesn't understand what's happening, but he doesn't need to understand, he just needs to use it. He channels all this sudden massive surge of power into his most powerful burst technique yet and launches himself at the Demon Lord. The speed is so intense that space itself seems to distort around him. His sword strikes the Demon Lord's blade, and the resulting collision creates a shockwave that blows out all the windows in the cathedral and knocks everyone else off their feet. The Demon Lord is actually pushed backward, which shouldn't be possible given the power difference. He looks at Kael with something resembling surprise and says, "Interesting, this human has potential." But the surge of power is already fading. Kael's body can't maintain that level for more than a few seconds. He collapses to one knee, gasping for air and bleeding from every pore as his body pays the price for that burst. But those few seconds were enough. Lady Seraphine uses the opening to grab Kael and signals the team to move. They rush through the cathedral exit while the Demon Lord is still recovering and sprint away from the encampment. Demons chase them, but Lady Seraphine uses her full 7th circle power to create barriers and obstacles that slow the pursuit. The team runs for hours, pushing their exhausted bodies beyond normal limits, driven by pure survival instinct. They finally lose the demon pursuit around dawn and collapse in a hidden ravine about 30 miles from the demon encampment. Everyone is severely injured and completely exhausted. Thomas has lost consciousness from blood loss. Maya is in shock from mana exhaustion. Alara is barely awake. Lady Seraphine is using the last of her energy to stabilize Thomas with healing magic. And Kael is experiencing something strange. His aura level, which temporarily spiked to 7th or 8th circle, is now settling at a new baseline of peak 6th circle, almost touching 7th. They rest in the ravine for a day, letting their bodies recover enough to move, then start the long journey back to the forward base. It takes them 3 days to make the return trip, 3 days of moving slowly through hostile territory, avoiding demon patrols and dealing with their injuries. When they finally reach the base on the 7th day, exactly at the deadline, they're barely recognizable, covered in blood and dirt and looking like they've been through hell, which they basically have. Commander Arcturus rushes out to meet them, shocked that they actually survived. He has medical teams take care of their injuries immediately while Lady Seraphine reports what they discovered. The information about the summoning portal and the captured humans is critical intelligence that changes the entire strategic situation. Arcturus immediately sends messengers to the capital requesting reinforcements, because if that portal opens and brings through whatever the demons are trying to summon, it could mean the end of human civilization in this region. Over the next week, while Team Verdant recovers from their injuries, the military mobilizes a massive force to assault the demon encampment before the ritual can be completed. It's the largest military operation in decades, with thousands of soldiers, mages, and knights being assembled. Commander Arcturus is placed in charge of the assault, and he specifically requests that Team Verdant be part of the operation despite their injuries, because they're the only ones who know the layout of the demon encampment and the cathedral structure. Kael and his team spend their recovery time preparing for the coming battle. Kael in particular is focused on understanding what happened when his power temporarily spiked. He meditates and analyzes his aura flow, trying to recreate that resonance effect. He realizes that by fragmenting his circuits in specific patterns, he can create harmonic resonances that temporarily multiply his power, but the cost is enormous on his body. It's essentially a kamikaze technique that could kill him if he uses it for more than a few seconds, but in desperate situations it might be the difference between victory and defeat. The assault on the demon encampment is scheduled for 2 weeks after Team Verdant's return, giving enough time for reinforcements to arrive and for the wounded to heal. During those 2 weeks, Kael breaks through to 7th circle, solidifying the advancement his body made during the desperate fight at the cathedral. At 19 years old, he's reached an aura level that most fighters don't achieve until their 30s, and he's done it through a combination of the Shattered Star method, his future memories, and pure determination. The day of the assault arrives. An army of 5,000 human soldiers faces an estimated demon force of 15,000. The humans are outnumbered 3 to 1, but they have better training, better equipment, and the element of surprise, since the demons don't expect an assault of this scale. The battle plan is straightforward: a frontal assault to tie up the majority of demon forces, while elite strike teams infiltrate the cathedral to destroy the summoning portal before it can be completed. Team Verdant is assigned to one of the strike teams alongside several other elite units. Their specific mission is to fight their way to the center of the cathedral and destroy the portal, while other teams handle security and evacuation of the captured humans. Lady Seraphine leads the strike team, and Commander Arcturus himself will lead the frontal assault. The battle begins at dawn, with the human army charging the demon encampment. The initial clash is brutal, with demons and humans colliding in massive melee combat. Magic and aura techniques light up the battlefield, creating explosions and energy blasts. The noise is deafening with thousands of warriors shouting and weapons clashing. Blood soaks into the corrupted ground and bodies fall on both sides. Team Verdant moves through the chaos part of a group of 50 elite soldiers tasked with reaching the cathedral. They fight their way through demon lines, encountering heavy resistance at every step. Kael is operating at peak efficiency, his 7th circle aura allowing him to fight multiple demons simultaneously. He's using refined versions of his burst technique, creating explosive movements that make him appear to teleport around the battlefield. Every strike he makes is lethal, every movement precise, the result of months of real combat experience. Alara has evolved from an academy archer into a battlefield sniper, taking shots from elevated positions and eliminating demon commanders before they can organize defenses. Thomas has become a mobile fortress, his shield techniques creating protective zones for wounded soldiers and his counterattacks devastating. Maya has developed new combat magic specifically designed for warfare, wide area spells that can damage multiple enemies and tactical spells that can change battlefield conditions. The strike team reaches the cathedral after 30 minutes of intense combat, half their number already casualties. The cathedral's entrance is guarded by dozens of elite demons, including several demon nobles who operate at 8th circle power level. Lady Seraphine engages the demon nobles, directly buying time for the rest of the strike team to enter the cathedral and proceed to the ritual chamber. Inside the cathedral, the team finds horror beyond imagination. The ritual is already in progress, with the portal partially open and something massive trying to push through from the other side. The captured humans are being drained of their life force to power the portal, and many have already died. Demon mages surround the portal, channeling energy and maintaining the spell. The team immediately engages, splitting into groups to handle different objectives, some attacking the demon mages, some working to free the prisoners, and Kael's group heading straight for the portal itself. As Kael approaches the portal, he can see what's trying to come through, and it's terrifying. A demon emperor, a being of pure destruction that operates at 10th circle power, essentially a god of the demon realm. If this creature fully manifests in the human world, nothing will be able to stop it. The portal is about 70% open, which means they have maybe 5 minutes before the demon emperor completes its crossing. Kael realizes that destroying the portal requires disrupting the energy flow, which means attacking the portal structure itself, but the portal is protected by powerful magical barriers that can withstand most attacks. He makes a decision that he knows might kill him. He's going to use his harmonic resonance technique to temporarily spike his power high enough to break through the barriers and destroy the portal. He tells his team to fall back and protect him while he prepares the attack. Thomas immediately positions himself between Kael and the demon mages, creating a defensive barrier. Maya erects multiple magical shields to block incoming attacks. Alara provides covering fire, taking out any demon that gets too close. And Kael begins the most dangerous technique he's ever attempted. He fragments his circuits more thoroughly than ever before, creating hundreds of tiny fracture points throughout his body, each one storing a fragment of his aura. Then he aligns all those fragments into a harmonic resonance pattern, causing them to amplify each other exponentially. The pain is beyond description, feeling like every cell in his body is being torn apart and set on fire simultaneously. Blood pours from his nose, mouth, eyes, and ears. His skin starts to crack and bleed. But his aura spikes massively, shooting from 7th circle through 8th circle and briefly touching 9th circle power. With this massive surge of power, Kael channels everything into his sword and performs a single devastating strike aimed at the center of the portal. The blade cuts through the magical barriers like they're not even there and pierces the portal structure itself. The effect is immediate and catastrophic. The portal begins collapsing in on itself, creating a massive implosion that sucks in everything nearby. Demon mages are pulled into the collapsing portal and disintegrated. The demon emperor that was halfway through lets out a roar of fury as it's dragged back into the demon realm. The entire cathedral shakes as reality itself repairs the tear that the demons created. The portal collapses completely with a final explosion of dark energy that blows out the cathedral walls and sends everyone flying. When the dust settles, the portal is gone, the ritual is broken, and the immediate threat of demon invasion is ended. But Kael is lying on the ground, barely alive. His body is destroyed from using the harmonic resonance technique, his circuits are shattered, his organs are failing, and he's lost massive amounts of blood. His team rushes to him, and Maya immediately starts trying to heal him, but the damage is so severe that basic healing magic can't fix it. Lady Seraphine, who finished defeating the demon nobles outside, arrives and assesses Kael's condition. She tells the team that Kael is dying, that the technique he used has essentially destroyed his body from the inside, and there's nothing they can do here. The only chance is to get him back to the forward base where there are advanced healing mages, but they're miles away and Kael probably doesn't have more than an hour to live. Thomas picks up Kael's body and the team fights their way back out of the cathedral. The main battle is still raging outside, but the destruction of the portal has demoralized the demon forces and the human army is starting to push them back. Team Verdant moves through the battlefield with Thomas carrying Kael, Maya constantly using healing spells to keep him barely alive, Alara clearing a path ahead, and Lady Seraphine protecting the rear. They reach the human lines, and Commander Arcturus, seeing Kael's condition, immediately arranges for the fastest transportation back to the forward base. A group of mages creates a teleportation circle, something normally reserved for critical supplies, but Arcturus decides this qualifies. The team steps through the circle with Kael and emerges at the forward base where medical teams are waiting. For 3 days, Kael hovers between life and death. The base's healing mages work around the clock, using every technique they know to repair the damage to his body. His circuits are so thoroughly shattered that they have to essentially rebuild them from scratch. His organs have to be healed one by one. The amount of blood loss required multiple transfusions. It's the most intensive medical case the base has seen, and there are moments when the doctors think they're going to lose him. But Kael survives. On the 4th day, he regains consciousness to find himself in the medical ward, wrapped in bandages and barely able to move. Lady Seraphine is sitting next to his bed, and she looks exhausted, like she hasn't slept in days. She tells him that the battle was won, the demon army was routed, and the remaining demons have retreated deep into their territory. The captured humans were rescued, and the immediate threat to the kingdom is over. More importantly, she tells him that his actions destroying the portal saved countless lives and prevented a catastrophe that would have destroyed the kingdom. She also tells him that the technique he used, the harmonic resonance, should never be used again because it nearly killed him, and if he tries it one more time it probably will kill him. But Kael just smiles weakly and says it was worth it. Lady Seraphine shakes her head and says, "You're an idiot, but you're a brave idiot, and I'm proud of you." Over the next month, Kael slowly recovers. His body heals, but his aura circuits are permanently changed. The healing mages did their best to repair them, but the circuits reformed in an even more fragmented pattern than before. Initially this seems like a problem, but Kael realizes it's actually an opportunity. His new circuit pattern allows for even greater power multiplication through the shattered star method, though it also makes the technique even more dangerous to use. When Kael is finally cleared for light duty, he's informed that he's being awarded the kingdom's highest military honor, the Star of Valor, for heroism in battle and preventing a national catastrophe. He's also being promoted to captain despite being only 19 years old, making him one of the youngest captains in the kingdom's military. His teammates receive commendations as well, and they're all being transferred to an elite unit based in the capital where they'll serve as part of the kingdom's strategic reserve. Before leaving the forward base, Kael visits Commander Arcturus one final time. The gruff old commander looks at him and says, "When you first arrived here, I thought you academy brats would last maybe a week before running home crying, but you proved me wrong, Verdant. You and your team are the real deal. You're soldiers through and through, and it's been an honor serving with you." Kael salutes and thanks the commander for giving them the chance to prove themselves. The team travels back toward the capital, taking the same route they took months ago when they first left the academy. As they pass near the academy, Kael asks if they can make a brief stop. They arrive at the academy gates, and Kael walks onto the campus one more time. Students stare at him because he's wearing military uniform now with captain's insignia and the Star of Valor pinned to his chest. Some of the students recognize him, and word spreads quickly that Kael Verdant, the tournament champion, is back. Kael walks through the campus, ignoring the stares and whispers. He stops at the abandoned training ground where he first started practicing the shattered star method all those months ago. He stands there remembering how weak and desperate he was back then, how everyone mocked him, how he almost gave up so many times. Now he's a decorated war hero, a captain in the military, someone who's fought demons and saved the kingdom. The journey from the bottom of Iron Class to here has been brutal, painful, and nearly killed him multiple times, but he made it. He leaves the training ground and walks back toward the academy gates where his team is waiting. As he's leaving, he passes by the main arena where the Christmas festival tournament was held. The arena is empty now, but he can almost see the ghost of his past self standing in that arena, covered in blood and exhausted but victorious. That victory seems like a lifetime ago, even though it was less than a year. So much has changed since then. Kael rejoins his team and they continue toward the capital. Alara asks him if it feels weird being back at the academy, and Kael thinks about it before answering. It feels like visiting a place from a dream, something that was important once but isn't part of his reality anymore. The academy was where he proved he could rise from nothing, but the real world is where he became who he is now. They arrive at the capital, a massive city with stone buildings, elaborate architecture, and millions of people. The capital is the heart of the kingdom, where the royal palace, the military headquarters, and all the important noble houses are located. Team Verdant reports to military headquarters and receives their new assignments. They're to be part of the Royal Guard's Special Operations Division, the most elite unit in the kingdom tasked with handling threats that normal soldiers can't manage. Their commanding officer in this new role is a woman named General Isolde Stormbreaker, who's legendary in the military. She's in her 40s at peak 9th Circle aura and known for being absolutely ruthless in combat and extremely demanding of her subordinates. When she meets Team Verdant, she looks them over critically and says, "I've read your records, impressive for people your age, but don't think that means you'll get special treatment in my unit. Everyone earns their place through performance, and if you can't keep up, you'll be transferred back to regular forces." The next 6 months are the most intense training period of Kael's life, and that's saying something considering everything he's been through. General Isolde pushes her unit harder than any instructor at the academy ever did. Training sessions last 12 hours minimum. Missions are constantly being assigned with minimal rest between them. The expectations are impossibly high and failure is not tolerated. Several soldiers in the unit can't handle the pressure and request transfers back to easier positions, but Team Verdant endures because they've already been through hell in the Northern Territories, so this is just more of the same. During this time, Kael continues advancing his technique and his aura level. He reaches peak 7th Circle and starts working toward 8th. His mastery of the Shattered Star method becomes so refined that he can now use burst techniques dozens of times in a single battle without exhausting himself. He develops new variations like the Precision Burst, which focuses all the explosive power into a single point for armor-piercing attacks, and the Sustained Burst, which spreads the power release over several seconds for continuous high-speed movement. Team Verdant runs dozens of missions during these 6 months. They hunt rogue mages who are using forbidden magic. They eliminate bandit groups that are too well organized for regular soldiers to handle. They investigate suspicious activity from neighboring kingdoms that might indicate espionage or sabotage. They even handle one mission where they have to protect a royal diplomat from assassination attempts while he negotiates a trade treaty with a potentially hostile nation. Through all of this, Kael's reputation continues to grow. People start calling him the Shattered Star after his technique. Stories spread about the Academy failure who became a war hero. Noble houses try to recruit him, offering titles, land, and wealth if he'll serve them instead of the crown. But Kael turns down all these offers because he's not interested in politics or noble games. He's focused on getting stronger and protecting the kingdom. Then one day, General Isolde calls Team Verdant into her office and tells them about a situation that requires their specific skills. There are reports of demon activity in the eastern provinces, not a full invasion like what happened in the north, but smaller incursions that suggest the demons are testing defenses and looking for weak points. The Crown wants a small elite team to investigate and eliminate the threat before it escalates. General Isolde is assigning Team Verdant to this mission with Lady Seraphine as tactical commander. This mission is different from previous ones because it's more open-ended. Instead of a specific objective, they're being sent to an entire region and told to figure out what's happening and stop it. They'll have operational freedom to make their own decisions, but also full responsibility for the outcome. It's the kind of mission that can make or break a military career. Team Verdant spends a week preparing, then departs for the eastern provinces. The journey takes several days, passing through farmland, small towns, and eventually reaching the border regions where demon attacks have been reported. What they find is troubling. Multiple villages have been attacked, but the pattern is strange. The demons aren't killing everyone or destroying everything. They're being selective, taking specific people and leaving others alive. It's not random violence, it's organized targeting. Kael and his team investigate the attacked villages, interviewing survivors and examining evidence. A pattern emerges. The demons are specifically targeting people with magical potential: mages, hedge wizards, even children who haven't manifested powers yet but show signs they might. It's like the demons are building a list of everyone in the region who has magical ability and systematically capturing them. This is concerning because it suggests the demons aren't just raiding, they're preparing for something bigger. If they're capturing mages, it's probably to use them in a ritual similar to what Team Verdant saw at the cathedral in the north. The team realizes they need to find where the demons are taking these captured mages before whatever ritual the demons are planning can be completed. Through careful investigation and tracking demon movement patterns, they identify a location deep in the eastern forest where demon activity is concentrated. It's a ruined fortress from an ancient war that the demons have apparently occupied and converted into some kind of base. The team approaches carefully, using stealth and reconnaissance to assess the situation before committing to action. What they find is both better and worse than expected. There are fewer demons here than at the Northern Cathedral, maybe only a few hundred instead of thousands, but the demons present are all elite level, with several demon lords who operate at 9th Circle power. And in the center of the fortress, there's definitely a ritual in progress, with captured mages being used as power sources similar to the previous incident. Team Verdant faces a decision. They could return to the capital and request a full military response, but that would take weeks, and by then the ritual would be complete. Or they could attempt to stop the ritual themselves even though they're vastly outnumbered and outgunned. The smart tactical decision is to retreat and get reinforcements, but none of them seriously consider that option because there are innocent people being tortured in that fortress, and every day they wait more people die. They formulate a plan. It's risky, but it might work. The plan is to wait until nightfall, then launch a surgical strike directly at the ritual chamber, ignoring the demon forces and focusing entirely on destroying the ritual before it can be completed. They'll use hit-and-run tactics, speed and surprise to overcome superior numbers. If everything goes perfectly, they might actually pull it off. If anything goes wrong, they'll probably all die. Night falls and Team Verdant moves into position. Lady Seraphine creates a series of magical barriers around their approach path to mask their presence. Elara scouts ahead, ensuring their route is clear. Thomas and Maya prepare combat spells and defensive techniques. And Kael meditates, centering himself and preparing to use his full power. They breach the fortress walls using a combination of Maya's earth magic to create an entrance and Kael's burst technique to quickly move everyone through before alarms can be raised. They move through the fortress interior, navigating by the map they created during reconnaissance. They encounter several demon patrols but eliminate them silently before any alarms can be sounded. They reach the ritual chamber and find a scene almost identical to the cathedral in the north. Captured mages chained to the walls being drained of energy. A portal being constructed in the center. Demon mages channeling power. The main difference is scale. This ritual is smaller, less ambitious, but still dangerous. If completed, it will probably summon a greater demon lord, maybe even a demon duke, powerful beings that could threaten entire regions. The team launches their attack. Maya opens with a massive lightning spell that kills half the demon mages instantly. Elara shoots the chains holding the prisoners, breaking them free so they can escape. Thomas charges forward to engage the demons physically, while Lady Seraphine duels a demon lord who was overseeing the ritual. And Kael heads straight for the portal to destroy it before it can complete. But destroying this portal is harder than the previous one because the demons learned from their failure in the north. This portal has multiple redundant power sources, and just attacking the portal structure isn't enough to shut it down. Kael realizes he needs to eliminate all the power sources simultaneously, which means taking out every demon mage and severing the energy connections from the captured mages all at once. He makes a snap decision and calls out instructions to his team. Maya focuses on breaking the energy connections using her dispel magic. Elara targets the remaining demon mages with rapid-fire shots. Thomas and Lady Seraphine work together to keep the demon combat forces busy, preventing them from interfering. And Kael prepares to use his harmonic resonance technique one more time despite knowing how dangerous it is. Lady Seraphine hears Kael's plan and shouts at him not to use that technique, that it will kill him this time. His body hasn't fully recovered from the last time. But Kael ignores her because there's no other way to generate enough power to destroy this portal, and if he doesn't do it, everyone in this fortress, including his team, will die. He fragments his circuits one final time, creating the harmonic resonance pattern. The pain is immediate and overwhelming. His body is literally destroying itself from the inside. But he channels all that destructive power into a single focused attack aimed at the portal's core. His strike connects and the portal explodes in a massive burst of dark energy that vaporizes everything within a 100-foot radius, including most of the demon forces. The explosion throws everyone else backward, and when the energy clears, the ritual chamber is destroyed. The portal is gone, the demons are dead, and the captured mages are free. But Kael is lying in the center of the blast zone, his body broken and smoking. His team rushes to him, and Maya immediately starts healing, but she's crying because she can see that the damage is catastrophic, worse than last time. Lady Seraphine checks Kael's vital signs, and her expression is grave. She tells the team they need to evacuate immediately and get Kael to the capital's best healers because he's dying and they don't have the resources here to save him. They carry Kael out of the fortress, gathering the freed prisoners along the way, and start the desperate journey back to the capital. The journey takes 3 days, and every hour Kael gets worse. His body is shutting down system by system. Maya uses every healing technique she knows, but it's like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship. She can slow the deterioration but not stop it. By the time they reach the capital, Kael is barely alive. His breathing is shallow, his heartbeat irregular, and his aura completely destabilized. They rush him to the royal hospital where the kingdom's best healers work on him for 5 straight days. The prognosis is grim. His circuits are destroyed beyond repair, his organs are failing, and his body is basically held together by healing magic at this point. The head healer tells Lady Seraphine that even if Kael survives, he'll never fight again. His fighting days are over. But something unexpected happens. On the 6th day, while Kael is unconscious and barely alive, his body starts to change. His shattered circuits, instead of dying, completely begin reforming themselves, but not in any normal pattern. They're creating an entirely new circuit system, something that shouldn't be possible according to every medical text. The healers watch in amazement as Kael's body essentially rebuilds itself from the ground up using some kind of process they've never seen before. What's actually happening is that the Shattered Star method, which Kael has been using for over a year, has fundamentally altered how his body processes aura. His circuits have been fragmented and reformed so many times that they've developed the ability to self-repair and evolve. Combined with his future memories and the desperate situation his body is in, some kind of breakthrough is occurring at the deepest level of his being. After 2 weeks, Kael wakes up. He's weak and can barely move, but he's alive and conscious. The first thing he sees is his entire team sitting around his bed, all of them looking exhausted from days of waiting and worrying. Alara is holding his hand and crying. Thomas has his head down and his shoulders are shaking. Maya is trying to smile, but tears are streaming down her face. And Lady Seraphine looks like she aged 10 years from the stress. Kael tries to speak, but his voice is hoarse. He manages to ask if everyone else is okay, if the mission was successful. Lady Seraphine laughs through her tears and tells him that yes, the mission was successful, the ritual was stopped, the captives were freed, and the eastern provinces are safe. She also tells him he's an idiot for using that technique again, and if he ever does something that reckless one more time, she's going to kill him herself. Over the next month, Kael recovers slowly but steadily. The healers are amazed by his progress because someone with his level of injuries should take years to recover, if they recover at all, but Kael is healing at an accelerated rate. More importantly, when they test his aura level, they discover something shocking: he's at 8th circle. The near-death experience and his body's reconstruction somehow pushed him through the barrier between 7th and 8th circle. But there's more. His new circuit system allows him to use the Shattered Star method with much greater efficiency and safety. The technique that nearly killed him twice can now be used with minimal risk because his circuits are designed to handle that level of fragmentation. He's essentially transformed a kamikaze technique into a sustainable combat style. The head healer tells him that his body has become something unique in recorded history, a perfect fusion of human physiology and an artificial power system. When Kael is finally released from the hospital, he's summoned to the royal palace. He's brought before King Alderon himself, a stern man in his 60s who rules the kingdom with wisdom and strength. The king personally thanks Kael for his service both in the northern campaign and in the eastern provinces. He offers Kael a noble title and lands as reward for his heroism, but Kael politely declines, saying he's a soldier, not a politician, and he prefers to keep serving in the military. The king respects this answer and instead offers Kael a different honor. He's being promoted to major and given command of his own special operations unit. He can recruit whoever he wants, and he'll report directly to General Isolde with considerable operational freedom. It's an incredible opportunity for someone not yet 20 years old, and Kael accepts immediately. His first act as commander is to formalize Team Verdant as the core of his new unit. Alara, Thomas, and Maya are all promoted to captain and designated as his primary team leaders. He also recruits several other talented soldiers he met during his time in the military, building a unit of about 50 elite warriors, mages, and specialists. They're officially designated as the Shattered Star unit after Kael's technique, and their reputation quickly grows. Over the next year, the Shattered Star unit runs numerous high-priority missions, becoming known as the Kingdom's troubleshooters, the ones who get called when situations are too difficult or dangerous for regular forces. Kael's leadership style is demanding but fair. He pushes his soldiers hard, but never asks them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. His unit develops a reputation for completing impossible missions with minimal casualties. During this time, Kael continues advancing. He reaches peak 8th circle and starts working toward 9th, which is the threshold of legendary power. His mastery of the Shattered Star method reaches the point where he can perform techniques that seem like magic even though they're pure aura manipulation. He develops signature moves like the Constellation Strike, where he fragments his aura into dozens of separate projectiles that attack from all directions simultaneously, and the Supernova Burst, where he releases all his stored power at once, creating an explosion comparable to high-level magic spells. But more important than his personal power is his growth as a leader and strategist. Kael learns to see the bigger picture to understand how individual battles fit into larger campaigns. He studies military history, political dynamics, and strategic theory. He transforms from a talented fighter into a commander who can plan operations, coordinate multiple teams, and achieve objectives that require more than just combat ability. Then comes news that changes everything. Intelligence reports indicate that the demon realm is preparing for a massive invasion far larger than anything humanity has faced before. The demons have been testing defenses and gathering information for years, and now they're ready to launch a coordinated assault across multiple fronts. The kingdom faces an existential threat and every available soldier is being mobilized for the coming war. King Alderaan holds a war council attended by all the kingdom's military leaders, nobles, and heroes. Kael is invited to attend as commander of the Shattered Star unit. The king explains the situation. The demons are coming with an army estimated at over 100,000 strong, led by multiple demon emperors. The kingdom can field maybe 50,000 soldiers, but they'll be fighting defensively, which provides some advantage. The war is expected to last months or even years and will determine the survival of human civilization in this region. The king asks his commanders for strategies and volunteers for critical missions. The most dangerous assignment is leading a strike force deep into demon territory to sabotage their supply lines and disrupt their command structure. It's essentially a suicide mission with almost no chance of survival, but if successful, it could significantly weaken the demon invasion force. Nobody volunteers immediately because everyone understands it's a death sentence. Kael stands up and volunteers his unit for the mission. The room goes silent and several people try to talk him out of it, saying his unit is too valuable to waste on a suicide mission. But Kael argues that his unit is specifically designed for this type of operation, that they have the skills, mobility, and experience to actually pull it off. More importantly, he believes that fighting defensively and waiting for the demons to come to them is a losing strategy. The only way to win this war is to take the fight to the enemy, to be aggressive and unpredictable. King Alderaan considers Kael's arguments and agrees to approve the mission. The Shattered Star unit will deploy into demon territory with the objective of causing maximum disruption to the demon war effort. They'll have complete operational freedom to choose their targets and methods. It's a mission that might win the war or might just get everyone killed, but it's the kind of bold action that desperate times require. Kael and his unit spend 2 weeks preparing, gathering intelligence, studying demon logistics, and planning their operation. They know they're going into enemy territory with no support, no resupply, and no evacuation if things go wrong. It's the most dangerous mission any of them have ever faced, and everyone understands they might not come back. On the day of departure, Kael stands in front of his assembled unit and gives a speech. He tells them that he's not going to lie to them and say this mission is safe or that they'll definitely survive. He tells them the truth, which is that they're probably going to die. But he also tells them that their deaths will matter, that the chaos they create behind enemy lines will save thousands of lives and give humanity a chance to win this war. He tells them they're not just soldiers, they're heroes who are willing to sacrifice everything for a cause greater than themselves. The speech is simple, direct, and honest, and every member of the unit responds by saluting and pledging to follow Kael wherever he leads. They depart that night using a combination of stealth magic and covert routes to cross into demon territory without being detected. The invasion has already begun, with demon forces pushing into human lands, but the Shattered Star unit is going the opposite direction, heading deep into enemy territory while everyone else is falling back to defend. The mission that follows is brutal. The Shattered Star unit operates behind enemy lines for 3 months, conducting hit-and-run attacks on demon supply depots, command posts, and communication lines. They ambush demon patrols, assassinate demon commanders, and generally create chaos that forces the demons to divert forces away from the invasion front to deal with internal threats. They fight, constantly living on minimal supplies and taking casualties, but never stopping, never giving up. Kael pushes himself and his unit beyond human limits. He's operating at 9th circle power now, having broken through during one particularly brutal battle where he had to fight 3 demon lords simultaneously. His Shattered Star method has evolved to the point where he can maintain burst techniques continuously for minutes at a time, transforming him into a living weapon of devastating power. But power alone isn't enough. Kael has to be a leader, a strategist, a tactician, keeping his unit alive and effective while deep in enemy territory. He makes decisions every day that mean life or death for his soldiers. He calculates risks, chooses targets, adapts to changing situations, all while fighting for their survival. It's the hardest thing he's ever done, more difficult than any training or any battle, because now he's responsible not just for himself but for everyone who chose to follow him. By the end of the 3 months, the Shattered Star unit has been reduced from 50 soldiers to 23. They've lost good people, friends who fought beside them and died in enemy territory. But they've also achieved their mission objective. The chaos they created behind demon lines forced the demons to pull back significant forces from the invasion front, weakening their assault. Combined with the kingdom's defensive efforts, the demon invasion has been stalled and is starting to collapse. The remnants of the Shattered Star unit finally extract from demon territory after receiving word that the war has turned in humanity's favor. They're exhausted, wounded, and traumatized, but they're alive and victorious. When they return to the kingdom, they're received as heroes. The king himself comes out to greet them and declares them saviors of the kingdom. Kael is promoted to colonel and awarded every military honor the kingdom can bestow. But he doesn't feel like celebrating because 27 of his soldiers didn't come home. He visits the families of every fallen soldier, personally delivering their personal effects and telling stories about how their loved ones fought bravely and died as heroes. It's the hardest duty he's ever performed. In the aftermath of the war, Kael is offered a position as General Isolde's deputy, essentially becoming one of the highest-ranking officers in the kingdom's military at age 21. But Kael turns down the position. He's realized something important during the 3 months behind enemy lines. He doesn't want to be a general sitting in an office making strategic decisions. He's a fighter, someone who belongs on the battlefield, leading from the front. He requests permission to keep commanding the Shattered Star unit and continue running special operations missions. King Alderaan grants the request, understanding that some people are most effective when doing what they do best. Kael rebuilds the Shattered Star unit, recruiting new members and training them in the techniques and tactics that proved successful during the war. The unit becomes a permanent fixture of the kingdom's military, serving as elite troubleshooters who handle the most dangerous missions. Years pass. Kael continues serving, leading his unit on countless missions across the kingdom and beyond. He advances to peak 9th circle and eventually touches 10th circle power, becoming one of the strongest humans alive. His legend grows, becoming the subject of stories and songs throughout the kingdom. The boy who was once the worst student in the academy becomes a living legend whose name is spoken with respect and awe. But despite all his achievements and fame, Kael never forgets where he came from. He visits the academy, occasionally talking to struggling students and telling them that failure isn't permanent, that you can rise from the bottom if you're willing to work for it. He sponsors programs that help students from poor families attend the academy, giving them opportunities he didn't have. And he maintains relationships with the people who helped him along the way: Lady Seraphine, who taught him his first real combat techniques, his teammates Alara Thomas and Maya, who stood beside him through everything, and even some of the students who used to mock him, who've since grown and changed. Kael's story becomes an inspiration throughout the kingdom, proving that noble blood and natural talent aren't the only paths to greatness, that determination, hard work, and refusing to give up can overcome almost any obstacle. Students who struggle at the academy no longer feel hopeless because they know that Kael Verdant started at the very bottom and rose to the very top. The Shattered Star method becomes studied and refined, though few people can master it because it requires a specific type of circuit structure and an incredible tolerance for pain. Eventually, Kael steps down from active duty after 15 years of service, having earned the right to retire as a decorated war hero. He's 33 years old at the peak of his power, and he could easily take a high-ranking position in the government or military leadership. But instead, he chooses to return to the academy not as a student but as an instructor, teaching advanced combat techniques to the next generation of warriors. His classes are known for being incredibly difficult but also incredibly effective. Students who train under Kael emerge as elite fighters who can compete with anyone. He's particularly attentive to struggling students, remembering what it was like to be at the bottom looking up. He tells them stories about his journey from Iron-class dead last to legendary hero, not to brag but to show them what's possible. On one particular winter day, exactly 15 years after he won the Christmas festival tournament, Kael is walking through the academy campus. It's snowing and there are Christmas decorations everywhere, just like that day so long ago. He stops at the main arena and watches current students training and competing. He sees some students who are naturally talented dominating their opponents with ease. And he sees other students who are struggling, clearly lacking in skill and confidence. One particular student catches his attention, a young girl from a poor family who's ranked last in Iron class. She's being defeated in a practice match and the other students are laughing at her. The situation is so similar to Kael's own experience that it's almost surreal. After the match ends, the girl sits alone, looking defeated and hopeless, like she's ready to give up. Kael walks over and sits down next to her. She doesn't recognize him at first, just sees another instructor and tries to compose herself to avoid getting lectured. But then Kael tells her something that changes her perspective. He says, "I was ranked last in Iron Class too. Once upon a time, I was the weakest student in this entire academy. Everyone mocked me and I almost gave up. But I didn't, and look where I am now." The girl stares at him in shock, recognizing him as the legendary Colonel Kael Verdant, the Shattered Star, the hero of the Demon War. She can't believe this powerful instructor was once in her position. Kael continues, telling her that being at the bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there, that the only real failure is giving up. He offers to teach her some techniques that might help, and she accepts, eagerly grateful that someone is finally giving her a chance. As Kael walks away from that conversation, he reflects on his journey. From the day he regressed and gained his future memories to this moment, he's lived 2 lifetimes worth of experiences in one body. He's gone from absolute failure to legendary success. He's fought demons, saved the kingdom, earned countless honors, and become someone future generations will remember. But more than any achievement or recognition, the thing he's most proud of is that he never gave up. When everyone said he was worthless, he proved them wrong. When situations seemed hopeless, he found a way. When death seemed certain, he survived. He transformed himself from trash into treasure through sheer determination, and that's something nobody can ever take away from him. The snow continues falling as Kael walks through the academy grounds, heading toward his office to prepare lessons for tomorrow's class. His journey isn't over. There are still students to teach, missions to complete, and challenges to face. But he's content knowing that he's lived a life worth living, that he made a difference, and that his story will inspire others long after he's gone. And somewhere in the future, maybe another student who feels hopeless and defeated will hear about Kael Verdant, the boy who was mocked as the worst student until Christmas Day when he began his journey to becoming a legend. Maybe that student will be inspired to keep trying, to push through the pain and difficulty, to refuse to give up on their dreams. And maybe that student will create their own legend, continuing the cycle of inspiration and proving once again that where you start doesn't determine where you finish. The story of Kael Verdant, the shattered star, ends not with a grand final battle or dramatic climax, but with a simple, quiet moment of reflection. Because sometimes the greatest victories aren't about defeating enemies or saving kingdoms. Sometimes the greatest victory is simply refusing to stay down when life knocks you down repeatedly. Sometimes the greatest power isn't supernatural abilities or magical techniques. Sometimes the greatest power is the human spirit's capacity to endure, suffer, adapt, and ultimately triumph against all odds. And that's a lesson worth remembering, whether you're the worst student in an academy or facing your own seemingly impossible challenges in life.